walking back from the student union told me they heard gunshots, and they just ran and came back to their apartment where I was walking to.
Yeah. So what's going through your mind seeing that your school has had a shooting?
Honestly, I just hope everyone's okay, and I hope that we can just do better precautions so this doesn't happen again. And I just feel awful for the students on there having to go through these emotions right now, dealing with feeling scared for their lives, honestly. It's really scary.
And you said you had friends on campus at the time?
Yes, right now. They're still on campus. They're on lockdown right now.
And you've heard from them? They're doing okay?
Yep. Texted them. They just said they're scared, they're in lockdown, and they just want to go home.
Is there anything else you want to add?
No, I just hope everyone's okay, praying for the people that are injured, and I just hope we can do better in the future.
All right, so thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry I had to ask.
It's okay.
Okay, and you were just listening to a live interview with a student who was on campus when there were reports of an active shooter. She said as she was leaving campus, she saw a group of girls crying. And I want to go back to Ava now. Ava, can you hear me? Okay, while we work to get Ava back, let's go back out to this live reporter at the scene for any new information. We'll take this live report. Okay, and while we wait for that, for those of you just joining us, we have been on the air for about an hour now. Reports of an active shooter on FSU campus, and we do have one of my colleagues here at CBS News Miami is a former student at FSU, and the reports are coming from the student union. You were sort of setting the scene. You were saying that this was an area that a lot of students gather, so there would be a large congregation of students happening right now. What else can you tell us about the layout of the campus and where the other classrooms are related in connection to this union gathering place? Because, you know, some students we talked to have said that even though they were told to hunker in place, they felt that they were a fair enough distance away that they could run to their cars and escape to the comfort, at least, of their own apartments.
Yeah, I mean, the campus was close to all the apartments. I mean, I used to walk to class every day. It was close to the library and the Landis lawn, which is where a lot of people would also hang out. But I mean, if you're, from what I'm assuming, in that space, it's a little far enough where you could get out of there, hopefully. But I mean, in general, the student union was really the centralized place for most of the campuses and the buildings. Yeah, it was close to the library, close to the business school where I was attending when I was there. But everything else, it was, centralized. Yeah, really important.
And for you personally, you work in a television newsroom and you hear news every day. But this one hits close to home. You graduated from FSU just a couple of years ago. This is your beloved school. How do you feel reporting the news on something that hits so close to home?
It's sad. It's awful. I mean, just the idea of this happening. I mean, I couldn't imagine being there. And just thinking about, you know, I was walking that every day. I was going to class there every day. I was hanging out there all the time with all of my friends when I was going there. I never could imagine that scenario. And the fact that it's real and it's in front of me right now, it breaks my heart. I can't imagine what these students are feeling. You know, I lived there for years. I walked it every day. It's really tough to think.
Have you been in contact with any of the students or following alerts yourself?
I'm following alerts. I'm texting my friends who have siblings at this point who may still go there, or just friends of friends. Haven't heard anything yet, though.
Everyone, as far as you know, is okay at this point?
At the moment, yeah.
We are also efforting more interviews from people directly impacted. We heard from a mother of 2 FSU students. She described just the terrifying moments when she realized that her own 2 children were potentially impacted. This is a live look right now from FSU campus, and you can see that students appear to be just casually moving about their business right now. There are a number of law enforcement officials there. We've also seen Leon County EMS vehicles and emergency responders moving throughout the area, but we have been able to confirm that at least 4 people were hospitalized. We don't know the extent of their injuries, but the hospital did send us a statement just a short time ago saying that they are treating 4 people, so they were able to confirm that information for us. You can see students right now just casually moving about, but we also confirmed that classes have been canceled for the remainder of the day. So there are no classes happening for the remainder of the day at FSU campus. We also know at this point that 4 people have been hospitalized, but we don't know the extent of their injuries or in what relation they were connected to these reports of the active shooter. We know this broke out in the student union area, and we just learned from our CBS News Miami colleague who graduated from FSU about 2 years ago that this is an area where a lot of students congregate, that this was a gathering place, a place where students hang out and spend time together, and a place where potentially there could have been a lot of victims if in fact this active shooter situation turns out to be true to reports. So right now we know that 4 people are being treated at the hospital, but we do not know the extent of their injuries. We've heard from a number of reporters at the scene as well, and we're hearing reports of, you know, when the chaos first broke out, Ava, a student we spoke with, said that her teacher told her to hunker in place and began to barricade the door to the classroom. But Ava, along with a number of other students, made the decision that they were going to make it run to their cars because they felt like they were a safe place or a safe distance away from the student union where the alleged incident was happening. So many students, even though they were being told to hunker in place, did make the decision to make it out to their cars and then go back to their apartments. And we also heard from officials who just a short time ago just reiterated that they are still asking students to hunker in place and that they will receive a safe word, assuming they know what the safe word is, when everything is all clear. But if you are just joining us, we've been on this story now for over an hour and a half. Reports of an active shooter on FIU campus. Information has been coming in real time, and we continue to gather new information. One of our CBS News Miami colleagues attended FIU and graduated just a couple years ago, and just seeing this, what is this like for you?
It's tragic. It's awful. It's really sad. I mean, I can't imagine what these students are feeling. You know, being a fellow Seminole, it hurts to see that, and I really hope it's not as bad as it may be.
Yeah, we continue, our crews are making calls right now, and we continue to update, you know, any new information. But the latest report, according to officials, is that 4 people were injured. We reached out to Tallahassee Memorial Health Center, and they did confirm that information for us. But this all broke out around noon. The first... Okay, I'm just receiving word. We have Blake Leonard, an FSU student. Blake, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Thank you so much for being with us this afternoon. And first, I just want to acknowledge, you know, we're so sorry that this is something that you are going through right now. Just describe where you were when you first received reports of a potential active shooter, because we're seeing some video right now of a few students just running across the street. But where were you? What were you going through?
I was like kind of in the vicinity of the Union. I was at the care building, leaving the care building, and I heard about 12 shots go off. In my head, I thought it was construction at first. Until I looked behind me, I started seeing people running from the Union, like towards my direction. And then I heard another like 12 or 15 shots go off. So I started running like away from there too. And I was just trying to get off campus as quick as possible because I didn't know where the shooter was going to go or anything like that. So I just heard it from like the Union area. And it was like relatively close enough to where I could hear the shot go off and then the impact hit. So it was like, it sounded like it was 2 shots, but it was just like a bullet shooting and then hitting something. So I was just trying to get out of there as quick as possible.
And so, Blake, you're the first person we've spoken with that actually physically heard shots fired. You say you heard 12 to 15 shots. This allegedly all happened in the student union area. How close were you to the student union?
I mean, it was about like 30 shots total. I think it was like 12 in the first like series of shots. Then probably about like a 12-second period of silence, and then another 12 or 15 shots.
Wow.
And I was probably like from the Union itself, I was probably around like 500, 400 feet away.
Okay, so potentially as many as 30 plus shots. How close were you to the Union?
To the Union, I mean, the Union's really big, so I don't know, like, maybe like approximation of the shooter, but from the Union itself, I was probably around like a football field length away.
A football field length away. And you ran to your car, or where were you running to?
I was just running in the direction that everybody else was running, trying to get out of there. And then once I felt like I was at a safe enough distance, I went to my car to get off campus because I didn't know, where that shooter was going to be going or anything like that.
Did you physically see a shooter?
I did not. I didn't physically see a shooter or anybody get shot. I just heard the shots pretty close to me and saw people running, so I was trying to get out of there too.
And when you talk about running, about how many students were you running with? And was this sort of a stampede? Was everyone just sprinting, running in all different directions, or everybody running sort of in the same direction? And how many students would you say were running in the same direction as you?
I think it took a minute for everybody to process what was going on. So whenever I heard the shots, it was like a couple people running, maybe like 12 or 20 people running out of the direction. And then I looked back and I saw everybody flooding out of the Union and everything. And that was probably like a couple hundred people trying to get out of there.
And I want to pause just for a second because we were just, we see a shot of at least just 3 students running there. And then moments ago, we saw a blurred shot. It looked like maybe someone was being carried out of the vicinity. Their image was blurred, so we don't know the circumstances surrounding that shot. About what time did you hear those first shots, Blake?
I want to say around like noonish. I'm not entirely sure, but it was around, I think it was, probably around noon exactly.
And when you talk about running away from the scene, did you run to a car? Where was your safe spot?
Initially it was my dorm, but there was more people running towards my dorm area too. So I decided I was just going to go to my car and leave.
Mm-hmm. And where are you now?
I'm off campus. I'm completely off campus. I'm probably like 7 miles off campus.
Yeah. What are you hearing from other students, maybe through through X or through text or WhatsApp? What are other students saying?
I don't know anybody personally that was over there. I just hear a lot of like in the group chats making sure everybody was safe and everything. And just like rumors, but nothing that like I can confirm or deny. So.
Sure, nothing that can be substantiated at this point. We hear of active shooter situations happening all over the United States, but it must just take a toll different when it happens on your own campus.
Yeah, definitely. It's really surreal. Like, it's still registering to me. Just to think that, like, I'm usually at the Union at that exact time too. So it's just like surreal to me to think that like I could have woke up and gone to class today or anything like that, and my friends could have been going to class and their life be taken or just injured or anything like that. It's very surreal to think about.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Shirley, you've been in touch with your family right now. What was the first conversation you had when you talked to your loved ones?
I called my grandma as I was like running from the area, and I was like, "Hey, there's a shooting." And she was just making sure I was okay, trying to just get as much information as possible, make sure I was safe.
And we're just receiving notification, Attorney General Pam Bondi on X writing, the FBI is on the scene at Florida State and we are in communication with agents on the ground. Our priority is the safety of everyone involved. We will keep updating as we learn more, praying for all. And that information just coming to us from Attorney General Pam Bondi on X. Let's go to another live interview right now.
Just we got outside and just here we are. We ended up in a church across the street here.
What was that moment like when the four of you were here and you knew you were safe?
Just like
Really?
nothing you've ever felt before, or you could even explain. It's hard to explain. I mean, just we're just blessed. I mean, how we got out of there, I can't, it's kind of surreal being at the church because God was watching over us. I mean, definitely we could have went really bad. I hope all the people pray for their families and that they're okay. We don't know much right now, but
All right, anything else? That covers it. Thank you so much. I know that's not easy. We don't know what to
Jacob Murphy there talking to.
All right, we are continuing to monitor the situation. You just heard a live interview from someone at the scene. You're taking a look at a reporter who's on the scene as well, who's been updating us as he learns new information. I want to go back now to Blake. He's a FSU student who evacuated campus when he heard the gunshots. And Blake, you're the first person who actually is reporting physically hearing those shots. Walk us through, for people just joining us. You said you heard 12 shots and then a pause and then about another 15 shots. Walk us through that moment.
Yeah, I was leaving the student union area, and I heard about 12 shots go off. I initially thought it was like construction or something, but in the back of my head, I was like, those are gunshots, because you could hear the shot and then hear the impact of the bullets. So after those 12 shots, I saw people starting to leave the union, and so I ran as well away from the union. And as I was running, I heard about another 15 shots, 12 or 15 shots.
And as you're running, what goes through your mind?
Just to get away, and anybody who's going in that direction, telling them to go the other way. There's a shooting going on.
And describe the moment when you finally got to the scene, and then you said you went to your apartment and were just able to sort of decompress and process what just happened. I imagine it still feels surreal.
But yeah, I initially went to my dorm, and I realized that people were still running that direction too, so I didn't know where the shooter was going or anything, so I figured I'd just get off campus. So I went to my car and left campus.
And I want to update you right now that sources are telling CBS News Miami that the shooter is in custody and was also shot by police and taken to the hospital. According to reports, we know that a total of right now 4 people are in the hospital being treated, but sources telling CBS News Miami the shooter is in custody. The shooter was also shot by police and taken to the hospital. Blake, you're hearing that news for the first time. The shooter is in custody. What sigh of relief does that bring you right now?
It's relieving to hear, but it's still devastating at the same time that it ever got to this, and that there's people that are hurting right now and families that are in distress.
Mm-hmm. And describe the moment. You said you got to your apartment and the first thing you did, we had to cut you short because we were going to a live interview. You said you got in contact with your grandma. Tell us about that conversation with your grandmother.
Yeah, I called her as I was like leaving the area, like as I was running away. And I was telling her, like, hey, it's a shooting, there's a shooting. And she was just trying to make sure that I was safe and okay, and try to get as much information as possible just to make sure I was good.
Mm-hmm. I can only imagine how relieved she was to hear your voice. And the latest information, we have been able to confirm right now that a student is in custody, or someone is in custody. That person was allegedly, we're hearing reports, shot by police as well. A total of 4 people in the hospital being treated right now. Thank you so much, Blake, for being with us and sharing your experience. You are the first person that we've spoken with today that is actually near the student union where this happened, and hearing a total of about, you said 30 shots, running from the scene, running to safety, getting to your apartment, and then calling your grandmother and just relaying that news that you were safe. And so we are glad that you're safe, and thank you in the midst of all of this for speaking with us. I want to go back now to our CBS News Miami colleague who's sitting right next to me, who graduated from FSU just 2 years ago. Hearing all of this, shooter is in custody.
Yeah.
Thank goodness.
Yeah, for real.
But your heart must hurt for all your former students right now.
It's hard to process, you know, just after being there for so long and, you know, being in that exact spot where everything's alleged right now. It's really hard to process. If I had been there, you know, if I was still going to school at that time, you never know. It's just insane to see this happening right now.
And we've reached out to Governor DeSantis, and we'll have his response for you very shortly. We also know that Attorney General Pam Bondi put out a statement on X saying that the FBI is on the scene at Florida State, and we are in communication with agents on the ground. Our priority is the safety of everyone involved, and we will continue to update as we learn more, praying for everyone. And I'm going to stay with this shot right now while I pull up Governor Ron DeSantis' Twitter account, because I'm receiving word that he has also just put out a tweet moments ago. He says, this was released on X just 16 minutes ago. He says, our prayers are with our FSU family, and state law enforcement is actively responding. And that is in response to a statement that they put out, FDLE put out, saying that FDLE is actively engaged in the incident on FSU's campus, and we will update the public with more information as soon as possible. But we know the very latest information is that officials saying that they do have the alleged shooter in custody, and that there was some sort of gunfire exchange, and that suspect was shot. But DeSantis now just putting out a statement 16 minutes ago saying our prayers are with our FSU family, and state law enforcement is actively responding to the scene. What are you hearing from your friends?
I haven't heard much yet, to be totally honest. I'm still waiting to hear back. I mean, I am imagining things are okay, but I haven't heard official responses back at the moment.
Sure, yes. Everyone's probably just sort of decompressing now from the incident. We heard a lot of students describe it as just surreal, saying that you hear about these types of things happening on the news, as you do, working in a newsroom or all over the United States, but you never really think that something like this is going to happen in your own backyard.
Exactly, yeah.
And right now, this is a live shot that we've just been staying on for over an hour now. It looks like they're continuing to barricade the scene. We know that they're actively investigating the circumstances, but we heard from a student, Blake Leonard, who literally was near the student union when those gunshots rang out. He reported hearing 12 shots and then a pause. And then he said he heard 15 more shots, possibly a total of 30. And then he said students just started running from the union, and he just followed the students. We heard from another student who was actually in a classroom. Her name was Ava, and she shared with us how her teacher got the alert and told the students in the classroom that there was an active shooter situation and began barricading the door. But still, certain students, because they felt like they were in a safe enough distance away from where the active shooter was potentially, that they could make it to their car, so they still decided to leave the scene and get to their cars and then make it to safety. But families right now, just knowing that that person, the alleged suspect, has been apprehended. Police say that a total of 4 people were potentially hurt and receiving treatment in the hospital, but that the alleged active shooter suspect exchanged in some sort of gunfire with police and was shot and apprehended. We just saw a reporter who's been updating us from the scene, kind of giving us a thumbs up. So we expect he'll have some sort of live report any moment, and then as soon as he does, we'll take that as well. But the first alert on FSU campus from their alert system came out about 12:01 p.m. And let's go live to that reporter right now.
Here at Dewey in Tennessee. Turn up the audio, please. And so we are here seeing the barricades be put up so that the officers can leave this area, because right now it's just being blocked by police cars right now. State Highway Patrol is here, FDLE is here, Tallahassee Police is here, and we are also hearing from state leaders right now on social media. Governor Ron DeSantis posted on X that our prayers are with our FSU family and state law enforcement, who is actively responding. House Speaker Daniel Perez posted on X that we're watching what's unfolding at FSU. It's terrifying and every parent's worst nightmare. We are continuing to monitoring the news here in Tallahassee and urge everyone to pray for the students, families, faculty, first responders, and all involved. And Speaker Perez is a graduate of FSU, and up in D.C., Congressman Jimmy Patronis is also monitoring the situation, he says on X, as work to learn more, again, offering prayers for first responders and those who are injured. Here at Dewey in Tennessee earlier, we did see ambulances leave the scene with lights and sirens indicating that there was a live patient inside. We don't know their conditions yet. We do know that TMH does have some victims here from the scene. We're still working to learn more, and again, this is a very active situation that is gaining attention across the state.
So an active situation, but the good news, of course, is that officials do have the alleged shooter in custody, along with a total of 4 people. We know that the alleged shooter was shot, him or herself, in some sort of exchange of gunfire with officials. The first alert went out just a little after 12, and so we've been on the air for over an hour now, just alerting people in real time to the developing situation. We have someone else on the phone, my producer is telling me. Okay, Vitris Quintana. And Vitris, tell us. Okay, Vitris is a law enforcement expert. Vitris, thank you so much for joining us right now. I guess in a situation like this, no one can prepare. A lot of these students felt like it was a drill. In terms of the response, is this what we would expect in terms of how law enforcement handled the situation and were able to, I guess, execute and sort of preserve the safety of the students as quickly as possible?
Yes, ma'am. Good afternoon, Nandra. This is Captain Quintana with Miami Gardens Police Department. Yes, what you're seeing is accurate, boots on the ground and real-time information as to how law enforcement will respond to an active shooter situation.
And, you know, it's unfortunate that we do live in a day and age where students have to be trained for this type of thing. We see students hugging and embracing right now. This is heartbreaking. As a emergency responder yourself, talk about the mentality that you all have going into a situation like this and really not knowing what you're walking into, because reports were sort of trickling in from all different venues, and it's difficult, I guess, to know what is real and how to respond and where to respond.
Well, the mentality is based on our training, and our training is we've trained at a high level to handle situations such as this. The FBI, the state, the city, all of the local municipalities, we come together with our incident command, and then we make sure that we are there to stop the threat and to protect life. So our mentality is we revert back to the training.
Yeah, that training, so vital. It's just sort of just go into fight or flight mode, I'm sure, and so it just becomes instinctive because of your amazing training. You yourself are a FSU alum and former Tallahassee police officer, current captain in Miami Gardens. So as someone who knows this campus, just from, I guess, stepping out of your official shoes, what is it like for you on an emotional level to see something like this happening at the school you attended?
It's hard. I was just approached by a supervisor that asked me, was I crying? And I said, no, I'm hurt because this is my beloved Florida State University, my beloved campus. And as a student, I take great pride, and as an alumni, I still take great pride. There's a level of anxiousness. There's sadness going on campus right now with the kids. There's worried parents that are calling in to check on their kids, family, friends, and loved ones. So there's a slew of emotions. Even me as an alumni of over 20 years, I'm receiving calls in reference to my university.
And we were reporting, based on what officials were sharing with us, that students would be alerted to a safe word when the all clear was given, that essentially not to go to their doors or answer their doors until the safe word was given. Do we know at this point whether that safe word has been released to students, or are they still, based on what you're hearing, being told to stay in place?
Well, I'm not aware if that safe word has been issued because I'm right here actively working in my city, in the city of Miami Gardens.
Sure. And this just in, we were receiving word that ATF Tampa is on the scene and assisting at FSU campus. The FBI director has been briefed. As someone who's also familiar with this campus, can you describe the layout? One of our CBS Miami colleagues, who is a former student there as well at FSU, was basically saying that this is an area where a lot of students congregate, where this shooting allegedly broke out.
Okay. The area in which they congregate, the Student Union Center?
Yeah, the Student Union Center, sort of the layout and
the layout. The Student Union Center is centered around a lot of our educational buildings. Such as business, communications. A lot of our educational buildings are immediately surrounding it. And then a little bit further on the outskirts, you have our dormitories.
Well, we thank you so much for sharing your insights with us as someone so closely connected to FSU. Thank you so much for being with us. And I believe we do have another interview with a student. We are efforting another interview with a student. We're going to hear from an FSU student shortly who actually describes running from the shooter. But a student that we spoke with just minutes ago also was close enough to the actual scene of the shooting that he described hearing a total of about 30 shots. He said he heard 12 shots, then there was a pause, and then about 15 more shots, and he wasn't sure exactly where they were coming from, but he was at or near the Union, and so he heard the bullets, he described, sort of ricocheting off the building structure, so he knew that he was close enough to the scene that he needed to run from the scene. And he described, running from the scene along with dozens of other students, all sort of running in the same direction away from the sound of that gunfire. You went to FSU. One of our CBS News Miami colleagues has been sitting next to me this entire time. Shooter is apprehended. Okay, we're going to get back to him shortly, but want to go now to an FSU student. Emily, can you hear me, Emily?
Yes, ma'am, I can.
Okay, Emily, thank you so much for being with us. And I just want to clarify, my producer was sharing with me that you actually were running from the shooter. Is that correct? And can you describe what happened?
Yes, ma'am, it was. My roommate and I were walking past Bellany and the Union where the shooting happened. We were heading to College of Music, and we saw people running. One of the workers was yelling to everyone to run somewhere safe, like run, run, run. And the girl passed by us saying, "The police are coming, there's a gun." And we heard the word gun and we started sprinting away.
And did you actually hear shots fired as well?
We think we might have heard something, but there's always construction, so we kind of played it off. We didn't think too much of it.
You thought the potential additional sound you were hearing was just sort of muffled in with the construction?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Did you actually see a shooter?
No, ma'am.
Okay. And when you were leaving the scene, describe about how many students were also sort of running away from the active scene.
A lot of people. I would say that my roommate and I were among the first people that started running, and then a whole entourage of people started running behind us.
And where did you run to?
We ran just away. We just ran as far as we could until we were out of breath, and now we are safe.
Mm-hmm. And when did you finally get to a place that you considered safe? Where was that place?
We are currently still there now, so I don't want to disclose my location,
Sure.
But we ran for quite a few minutes.
Describe the first conversations after getting to your safe place that you had with friends, family, or loved ones.
So I told my mom as we were walking, and I said that someone said there's a gun. We had no idea even where it was at. And then I got off the phone with my mom, and I started talking with my friends that are with me right now, and we were just freaking out. We were like, for some of us, this isn't our first experience in a shooting, but, every time it just is so difficult. And we were shaking, our legs felt numb, and we were just completely shocked.
How close were you in proximity to this student union area where the alleged shooter was?
At the time, apparently when the first shots were fired, very, very close. I would say probably around 20 feet.
That has to be just riveting for you to process now that you know that you're safe and that the alleged shooter is in custody, to know that you were so very close to what was happening.
Yes, ma'am. God is so very good.
And are you hearing from any other students through text messages or WhatsApp app messages, or what are the other students saying?
Yes, ma'am. I think there might be a lot of rumors going around. I think everyone's in a state of panic. I'm hearing a lot of different reports regarding how many people are injured, how many people are dead, and how many shooters there are. Seems to be a lot of paranoia and confusion.
Sure. Well, I can confirm for you that there was reports of one active shooter that is in custody, and that person was, we're hearing, allegedly shot by police. A total of 4 people in the hospital being treated for their injuries. We've also been hearing reports that students would receive a sort of all clear message when the situation was deemed safe, and not to answer their doors until they hear that all clear. That the safe word is what they're calling it. Have you received any notification of a safe word?
Yes, ma'am, we have, through FSU email.
Okay, so students, that's new information for us, have received the safe word, that it is clear, even though we know.
My bad. We received a safe word for entering in buildings, not an all clear. I'm so sorry.
Gotcha. Okay, so you received a safe word that they will alert you when it is all clear, but you have not received that all clear at this point.
Yes, ma'am. We are still in shelter.
And we're also just receiving word right now that President Biden has been briefed on this situation, so we will alert you to what he has to say as we hear it. Let's go to this live interview happening right now.
What's going through your mind right now?
Well, we got a call from my daughter before it hit the news. We've been on the phone with her for over an hour ever since. As a father, my wife's in the car and a mother, we are concerned for our daughter, but at least we're talking to our daughter and know that she is safe. Our hearts and prayers and minds are to anyone who's possibly had a child or a relative who's been injured or possible loss of life. And as a new pastor here in Tallahassee at the Bethel AME Church family on Orange Avenue, I am praying for our city and for the Florida State University community.
Yeah, you ever think anything would happen here when you send your daughter here?
You don't think it's going to happen, but with the level of gun violence in our country, and with the level of mass shootings that occur, I think research shows that our country has more mass shootings than anywhere else on the planet. You always think in the back of your mind that someday something could happen. And a lot of anger for me comes from our policy with guns. And even in the state of Florida, how we made it easier for persons to own guns. We can't be a country that love our children and the citizens and continue to have the kind of gun policies we do. And I know everyone's going to say, no, don't rush to gun policy. Maybe some mental issues here or something, but we got to do something about that.
And you've been talking with your daughter. What has she been telling you?
She's just been real nervous because of not knowing what's going on, feeling safe, and then feeling not safe with movement from movement, and just wanting this event to be over as far as this day and to be safe again in her home with her family.
Anything else you want to add?
No, thank you.
All right, thank you so much, sir. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, and just want to clarify, President Trump has been briefed on the situation, so we're waiting for any response from him, and we'll let you know what President Trump has to say as soon as he releases that information. But we just heard that powerful statement from a father who basically said that it's a horrible thing that happened, but he's just so grateful that he actually was able to make a phone call to his child and confirm that his child is okay. Just into our newsroom, we received word that President Trump was briefed briefed on the situation. So as soon as we hear a statement, we will bring it to you. We also heard recently from Governor Ron DeSantis, who is saying that prayers are with all involved. Pam Bondi, FBI, is on the scene, also saying prayers for all involved. Total of 4 people are being treated at the hospital, and that's according to officials at the scene. The hospital also confirming that information, and ATF Tampa is on the scene and investigating the situation. We know that the FBI director has been briefed and that the shooter is in custody. We're receiving reports, officials saying that the alleged active shooter was also shot but taken into custody. We have been on the air following this developing story for over an hour and a half now. So for those of you who may just be joining us, we have been following the situation for FSU. Reports of an active shooter, that person in custody. I'm going to stay on with this shot just for a minute while I just check. Our news crews are making calls right now and are just sending me some new information just into the newsroom. Okay, so we're seeing this newest update related to the FSU shooting today. It says TMH can confirm that we have received 6 patients, 1 in critical condition and the rest in serious condition. So that's the newest information just into our newsroom. We were hearing that at least 4 people were hurt, but the newest information is now that 6 patients are being treated, 1 in critical condition and the rest in serious condition. We know at least one of those patients potentially is the active shooter who officials tell us was shot. But the newest information coming in. Okay, my producer communicating with me now, saying that we have sound from a student who saw the whole thing unfold.
I was parking my car, walking back, and as I was walking back, I see these group of girls crying, really upset, walking back from the student union, told me they heard gunshots, and they just ran and came back to their apartment where I was walking to. So I'm scared for my friends. I'm making sure I'm checking up on them, and I just hope everyone's okay and this gets handled soon. I just feel awful for the students on there having to go through these emotions right now, dealing with scared for their lives, honestly.
And just want to confirm this information I'm getting about the latest injuries is actually from Tallahassee Memorial Healthcare. Their communications manager, Sarah Cannon, communicating with us right now from Tallahassee Memorial Healthcare, saying and confirming that 6 patients are at TMH, 1 in critical condition, the rest in serious condition. And that is up from the 4 that we originally reported. We know that potentially one of those people is the active shooter, him or herself. Officials say that they got into some sort of exchange with that shooter and that active shooter was shot. But the newest information coming to us right now, according to Tallahassee Memorial Healthcare, is that they are treating a total of 6 patients, 1 in critical condition and the rest in serious condition. We've heard from a number of students who experienced this themselves today. We heard from Viviana Chavez, a mother of 2 FSU students, who described for us what it was like hearing that there was an active shooter on campus and then confirming that her children were okay. She had 2 children on FSU campus, so she was just terrifying for her to hear this happening in real time and know that her children could potentially be affected, and was just so relieved when she heard they were okay. We've heard from Ava Ariando. She's a FSU student that actually sheltered in place. And we also heard some riveting experience from Blake Leonard. He was the FSU student who evacuated from campus after actually hearing those gunshots. He described hearing 12 shots and then a lull and then 15 shots, and knowing that they were close enough to him because he said he could literally hear them ricocheting off a building, and he was running along with dozens of other students who were just trying to get away from that union gathering area. We also heard from a CBS CBS News Miami colleague who graduated from FSU just 2 years ago, and he described the layout of the campus and basically said that this Union area is really a gathering place, that a lot of students congregate there, so a very dangerous situation to have an active shooter with potentially a lot of human targets in that isolated space. We also heard from a former law enforcement official with Miami Gardens, or current law enforcement official, I should say. She was a FSU alum and former Tallahassee police officer, and she spoke to us from an official level about how they respond to situations like this, but also just from an emotional level, you know, covering things like this all too often, and then how close it just hits to home for her. We are taking a live look right now, and I do hear a reporter at the scene. So as soon as we get another reporter up, we'll certainly take that. But the newest information in is that a total of 6 people are hurt. That is up from 4. The Tallahassee Memorial Healthcare Services is confirming that for us. Okay. We have a student, Simone, who is on the phone right now. Simone, can you hear me?
Yes, hi.
Hi, Simone. Thank you so much for being with us. Describe where you were when those shots rang out shortly after noon today.
So thankfully, I was right off campus in my apartment, but I have friends that were on campus in that moment, and when the shots rung out, all of a sudden you could hear a bunch of police cars and helicopters come out. Immediately, I just called my friends to make sure that they were okay.
And the friends that you called, were they near the scene?
Yeah, they were on campus. They immediately ran into a classroom where they've been for the past hour. Thankfully, they've moved them up to a new floor, and they're giving them snacks and drinks.
Yeah. How are you communicating with them via text, or how are you communicating with them?
Yeah, we've been texting with them. We've also been keeping in contact through our other friends to make sure we're all okay, since we're all in different parts of campus.
And we're receiving reports now that a total of 6 people are being treated. The gunman is in custody, but what are your fellow classmates saying about that? Are people, I'm imagining, trying to figure out who might be hurt?
Yeah, we're all wondering. We're all texting classmates that we've honestly barely even talked to, but we just want to make sure everyone's okay. Hearing it 6 people injured is actually a lot of news to me. I didn't know that, and it makes me so scared to know that all this is happening. It's not what I expected today.
Sure, and classes canceled throughout the day. I want to bring in my colleague now, Elliot Rodriguez. He's just joining me now. Elliot, you were probably at home watching this all unfold and thought, oh my goodness, FSU active shooter situation.
Well, Naja, as a matter of fact, I was on the phone with my daughter, who is an FSU graduate.
Wow.
And she was telling me, Dad, did you hear the news about a shooting at Florida State University? That she heard it from my niece and my nephew are both also Florida State University graduates. So that just highlights the connection that we have here in South Florida to Florida State University. So many students here from this area end up attending college at Florida State University, and so there's great concern right now. After this news was first reported at around noon that the gunman had gone into the student union, opened fire, and now we're getting the details that you're giving us from WCTV, that is the CBS affiliate.
The hospital confirming as well.
And the hospital confirming it as well, that there are, it looks like 6 people have been injured, and that they do have a suspect in custody. That is the latest news that we've received right now. But you're talking to students on the phone that they don't know what's going on. They've gotten alerts on their phone, but there's a lot of confusion and potentially misinformation. We're showing some video there. It looks like somebody is being escorted off the campus, but it is also hazed out. We can't see the person in the middle, so not exactly sure what we're seeing there. But we know there is a lot of anxiety, a lot of concern, both in Tallahassee and in other parts of the state of Florida, especially here in South Florida, because of the strong connection that we have with Florida State University. And Naja, I remember in 2014 when they had a mass shooting at FSU, and that one occurred in the library. library, at the Strozier Library, when a former student walked in, opened fire, and injured 3 people, 2 students and 1 staff member. That was in 2014, so more than 10 years ago. And now we're reliving this horror that is part of reality, unfortunately, in this country, where we have mass shootings that have occurred on school campuses, at malls and grocery stores and other places where you would least expect something like that to happen. But now the spotlight is on Tallahassee. We're seeing some of the activity around the campus, because after this was reported in the student union, looking at a map there, Florida State University was reported in the student union, and there were people who were seen running from the student union, just getting away from there, because that is where they were told this mass shooter was located. But again, the information that we have right now, the latest information that we have, is that 6 people have been hurt in this shooting at Florida State University. And Naj, I know we have 2 sources for that. One is the hospital there in Tallahassee, and the other one is WCTV, our CBS affiliate there.
Yeah, that is correct. And one of the students we spoke with said it was very confusing because there was so much construction going around at the same time that the alleged active shooter was firing shots, and so they thought it was construction. And I'm just seeing now, in addition to that Tallahassee police was conducting a training exercise at the same time this shooting took place. So residents, including students at FSU, were advised that they would be hearing loud bangs and crashes and sirens. So there were multiple layers happening at the same time. The active shooter, who students who were there report hearing as many as 30 gunshots. There was active construction and a training exercise at the same time. So it was very difficult, I think, was one student was describing, to decipher exactly what they were hearing. But a student who was very close to the scene told me that they knew it was an active shooter when they literally heard those bullets ricocheting off the building, and then they knew that there was a real active shooter situation, and then students began running from the scene. But we've been on air for over 2 hours now following this developing story. The first alert came out at 12:01, and that was FSU sent out an alert on Twitter alerting students that there were reports of an active shooter and to hunker down in place.
Now, again, that shooter reportedly has been taken into custody. 6 people are being treated for injuries, and the information we have is that 1 person is in critical condition at this hour, and 5 people are in serious condition. Now, Naja, we do not know how many of those are students. Are they staff members? Could there have been just a person who happened to be at the wrong place at the wrong time? We don't know that right now, but we know the total is 6 people being treated for injuries, and we know at least 1 of them is in critical condition. And again, with everything you described that was going on around Florida State University today, that just adds to the confusion, the anxiety that we're seeing on campus. If they had reports that there was construction going on, there was another drill that was happening, and then you have this on top of it, that just adds to the confusion. And why, now it explains why people were seen running away from different locations, especially the student union there, because that is where the first report, the first report that they got on their phones, letting them know that there was an emergency on campus, and that would have been the shooting at the student union. So again, just to bring you up to date, 6 people hurt in this mass shooting at Florida State University in Tallahassee. The reports are that 6 people have been hurt. 1 of them is in critical condition. 5 are in serious condition. An alert was sent out shortly after noon, and we can report that the gunman is in custody.
Okay, and this just in, we mentioned that Trump was fully briefed on the FSU shooting at this time. So he opened the meeting with Italian PM addressing the shooting, and this just in, he said, quote, "It is a shame, it is a horrible thing, horrible thing. Things like this take place, and we'll have more to say about it later." But President Trump has been fully briefed on the situation at FSU, and just releasing a statement saying, quote, "It is a shame, it is a horrible thing, horrible thing. Things like this take place, and we'll have more to say about it later." Governor Ron DeSantis also releasing a statement about 45 minutes ago on X saying prayers with everyone involved. And we've also learned that the FBI director has been fully briefed. And here's that statement from Governor Ron DeSantis saying, "Our prayers prayers are with our FSU family, and state law enforcement is actively responding, and that was in response to FDLE releasing a statement on X saying that FDLE is actively engaged in the incident on FSU's campus. We also heard from Pam Bondi saying that prayers are with FSU right now as well, and that officials have been fully briefed on the situation and are responding. We do have another reporter at the scene. Let's go to that reporter live for an update.
With students who were on their way to campus when they saw people running away from campus, crying. They've been on lockdown here at Florida State University for about 2 hours now. I'll get out of the way. As you can see, Florida Highway Patrol troopers are going through here. The Florida Department of Law Enforcement is also here helping with the scene, as well as the Florida Fish and Wildlife Commission, the local police, and university police as well. And so they are, again, sorting out what happened here. But again, a lot of people are pretty shaken up. A lot of people are remaining relatively calm given what happened. I talked to a parent. He's been in constant contact with his daughter for the last 2 hours, and they've been moving her inside, outside, back inside. And so, like, every time they move, her mood shifts depending upon where they're at. We did see 3 or 4 buses full of students leave here to go to the other side of campus where the Reunification Center is for families to pick up. That's at the Civic Center here on campus for anyone that might be watching in the Tallahassee area that might want to reunite with their loved ones. That is happening at the Civic Center. So again, it is still a very active scene here at Florida State University. Deborah.
Sorry, I couldn't take your call because of you.
Okay, you okay?
Yeah, I'm
All right, we're going to go now to a father who was coincidentally on a visit to Florida State University today when he got the alert about gunshots. Let's listen to that interview.
All right, and while we wait for that interview, we have also been able to confirm that President Trump has been fully briefed. Let's take a live listen now to that interview.
My daughter was waiting at the table. We were looking at the menu, and I couldn't believe it. Like, shots started. It was surreal, and people just started running. She got trampled over. We went through an exit door, ran down a hall, and all the doors were locked except one going up a flight of stairs to exit. And we didn't think that would be a good idea, but there was about 70 of us or 50 of us in that, and we were just like trapped. And that was probably the scariest point, because we didn't know, it could get worse, right? The doors open, and 2 officers were there, guns drawn, yelled, "Did you see anything?" We're like, "No." "How do we get out?" They pointed that way, and just the adrenaline. We got outside, and just here we are. We ended up in a church.
Naja, listening to that father speak is just chilling, isn't it? Because when you take the major step of sending your child away to college, and I know I've done it, you're not there yet, but I've experienced it. In fact, at Florida State University, I remember taking my daughter there on a campus visit, and you're worried, concerned about, let's listen to here what we got here, and I'll continue my thought.
And what happened?
Yeah, I was in class, and it was about 1 o'clock, and the shots rang out, and we were like, "Is that construction going on, or what was happening?" And so we got up, looked out the window, and I remember looking outside and hearing 5 more shots go off, and I was like, "What's going on?" So I saw kids running away from the student union, and I walked away from the window. Then I walked back to the window and heard 6, 7 more shots ring out, and at that point we were like, "Okay, there's a shooting going on." So we ran from our classroom, went to the offices, locked the doors, barricaded ourselves in there, and then we waited and was looking out the window again and saw the SWAT teams pull up, the police cars, the FBI come, and at that point we were like, okay, we got to bunker ourselves in, and we were praying. We were like, okay, something's got to change here, and the SWAT team came into the room. They're like, "Stay where you are, don't move," and we were in there for about 30 minutes. And at that point, we were escorted out. About 100 SWATs were inside the building, and our hands were up, and so then we were escorted outside past the Union and then into a safe space.
What was going through your mind when all this was unfolding?
Yeah, I was completely in shock. I didn't think this could happen at Florida State. I mean, we're a pretty safe campus, but yeah, this is just like unheard of to me. I never had been in a school shooting before, active shooter. This is like first time for me, and I was honestly in shock. My hands were shaking. Just adrenaline kicked in, and I really didn't know what to do. I started tearing up. Just like I was scared, to be honest. Yeah.
Yeah, and so you just saw, you just heard the shots. You didn't see anything.
Yeah, I didn't see the shooter, but I saw the kids running away. I heard some screaming. Yeah, and the shots, like 3 rounds of like 5 shots, and then 7 shots. So it must have been some back and forth going on. Yeah.
Yeah. And how are you doing now?
Good. I've recovered a lot. A lot of people have been texting me. People from out of state, University of Michigan friends have been texting me. People from South Florida have been texting me. People from high school have been texting me. Doing a lot better. It's been a great community that has surrounded me since then. I definitely didn't think I'd be traumatized as much as I have. Definitely not being on the scene, but being kind of away from it. But yeah, it's been scary. So I'm doing a lot better now. Yeah.
That's good. That's good. Is there anything that you wish would have happened differently?
Yeah, no, I think the police responded very quickly. I think they did a great job. Yeah, I don't really know what could have happened. Maybe there's more police presence at certain areas for there not to be a shooter. I mean, I think that's just like the most obvious thing, but yeah.
All right, anything else you want to add? Anything maybe missed?
No, that's great.
Sounds good. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. What was your name?
Yeah, I'm Cody.
Cody?
Yes.
Cooper.
Yeah, nice.
Just a terrifying firsthand account of what that student was experiencing, having to hunker in place and hearing the shots and barricading in place. We do now have that sound from President Trump, who's been fully briefed on the FSU shooting. Let's take a listen.
Thank you very much, everybody. And I've been briefed on the Florida State University, Tallahassee active shooting. I guess it's an active shooter. Fully briefed as to where we are right now. It's a shame. It's a horrible thing. Horrible that things like this take place. And we'll have more to say about it later.
And President Trump was with the Italian PM when he addressed that shooting hearing for the first time, saying it's just a shame, it's a horrible thing, and then also reiterating that we're going to hear from him more later. We see the reporter live in Tallahassee waving at us. We expect a live report from him at any minute, as he's been updating us now for hours. But prior to that, Elliot, we were talking, you heard a parent who was on a tour.
Yes.
A campus tour with his student, and I think we do have this interview right now. Okay, let's listen in.
In like the stairwell, I was in the library between like the 4th and 5th floor, and like people started flooding up the stairs, but like nobody told me what happened. So then I started walking back up to the 5th floor. By the time I got there was like these girls, and like it was just chaos. Everyone was like, there's like a shooter and stuff, and so like these guys started like pressing the elevator button to have the elevators come up and like put tables in the blockway to like block anyone from getting on the elevator. And then like some other guys like closed the doors to the 5th floor and then put tables and stuff there. But we were all like kind of panicked. I was like freaking out and shaking a lot, but for some reason I just had a peace. And part of that is like because I'm a Christian, and I think Jesus gave me peace in the midst of a chaotic situation. You know, people use free will for whatever they want to do. And so, like, it's very heartbreaking, but I hope that, you know, like, God is brought through this and that people would maybe seek him out through it. But yeah, I was with actually a few of my friends, Nick and Allison. I was studying for an exam. But yeah, it was chaos. We were standing up there, and then we actually were by the windows. So like at the windows, we saw cops running, students running. It was just like complete chaos. Everyone was like running all over the place. And then we saw like a gurney, and then like the gurney came back, and the guy had his arm cut off, and I think like he was bleeding, and like he had like bandages and stuff. And so like that was really hard to see. Yeah.
I
can only imagine what was going through your head when you were kind of realizing that there was a shooting on your campus.
I mean, when I saw everyone flooding up the stairs, I kind of thought that like the shooter was like in the library. I mean, like nobody told me where it was. They said like Landis or like whatever, and I was just in utter disbelief. I was like, you never think that it's gonna be like you and your campus, but you really never know. So it was just, it felt surreal, but yeah.
Yeah, how are you doing now?
I'm doing okay. I mean, there's other people who are doing probably a lot worse than me, so I'm just like mourning for those people because I feel really bad. But other than that, like, just waiting to like get my stuff back. My car is in one of the garages that they like locked down. So yeah, I don't have any of my stuff, so I'm just waiting for that.
Yeah. Anything else you want to add? Anything may have missed?
In the midst, okay, I'll look at you. Yeah. Okay. In the midst of chaos, like the Creator, God, gives peace under all circumstances, and He seeks to have a relationship with everyone. And so, like, look to Him for the source of questions and answers. So, yeah, that's pretty much it.
All right, sounds good. Thank you so much.
Okay, you just heard from a young lady there in Tallahassee, Naja, who is holding on to her faith to give her strength at a moment like this. And what I was saying earlier is that such a pivotal moment in life where you take your child after graduating from high school to a university, and as a parent, it's a tough situation because you're letting go of your little baby. And then on top of that, that father that we heard from earlier was visiting the campus with his daughter, thinking about taking his daughter, and then this happens. I also thought, listening to the young man earlier, this is a generation that has grown up with active shooter drills, that has grown up seeing this happen over and over again. So it's not that foreign to them. And in a way, it's something that they maybe have in the back of their minds that could potentially happen. And in this case, it did happen, and they are nervous, they are anxious, they don't know what to do. We heard that young lady there who's holding on to her faith, and others who are complimenting the police for the job they're doing. Right now, we have a student, a current student at Florida State University who is on the phone. Alejandro Lopez. Are you there, Alejandro?
Yes, hi.
Hi, Alejandro. Tell us where you were when you heard what was going on.
Yeah, so I was on campus in the College of Music, which is a little bit far away from the Union, but there was definitely a lot of people still running from that area towards me and farther. And as I was leaving the building, going to my car, there was like 20, 30 cop cars just pulling by.
And Alejandro, I understand that it was a difficult situation for some people to hear because there was construction going on in the area. Officials also put out a statement saying that they were potentially going to be running some sort of drill. And then there was the active shooter situation that was actually happening. Did you literally hear shots or just see the students running?
I did not hear any of the shots, but I did see the people run.
And what was your safe place? How did you get out of the situation?
Yeah, I had just left like a secured building, so I just ran to my car, pretty much avoiding that were beating down.
So Alejandro, you saw people running. Did people look panicking? Did you hear people say anything where you were when these shots were heard?
I just saw people panicking, like, but it wasn't. It's kind of far away, so it wasn't very immediate panic with a bunch of people. But I think everybody was just really shaken up from the whole experience.
Okay, your connection is breaking up a little bit.
Yeah.
Were you part of any active shooter drills, or did they advise you when you started college there at Florida State University about the potential possibility of something like this happening on campus? Because it has happened before. There was a shooting at Florida State University back in 2014 at the library. Were there any precautions that were taken or any instruction for the students on how to act in a situation like this?
I mean, we have been dealing with this since kids. I know in high school we had problems with students bringing things to school that they shouldn't have, so Yeah, definitely active shooting drills has always been part of our lives, at least nowadays. In college, we never really talked about it as much, but there's definitely those precautions in place, like the FSU alerts, and teachers know what to do during these situations. But I think we're all just very used to it at this point.
A lot of the students we've been speaking with are saying, even though this is the day and age we live in, it still feels so surreal. Describe the first conversation that you had with your loved ones or friends or family to let them know that you were in fact safe.
Yeah, I text my parents just telling them what's going on and telling them, okay, but this is happening. And I'm still getting texts people that know I go to school here, and they're checking in, making sure I'm okay.
Well,
it is very surreal.
We are glad you're safe, and thank you so much for being with us this afternoon. We can go back out live to Tallahassee right now, where the reporter who's been briefing us for hours has a new update. Let's take a live listen.
Law enforcement actively responding. We have FHP, we have Highway Patrol, FDLE, and FWC are here, as long with the Tallahassee and FSU police as well. Speaker Daniel Perez, who is a graduate of FSU, is also offering prayers with students. He says that this is a parent's worst nightmare. Prayers are for students, families, first responders, and all involved. And State Representative Gallup Franklin, he represents Tallahassee in the Florida House. He says in a statement that he stands with students, educators, families, and neighbors during this time of uncertainty and grief, and that schools and universities must be places of safe learning and not fear. And once we have the full details of this heinous act, we must act with purpose and urgency to prevent tragedies like this from happening again. I've talked with parents as well here, and they've also brought up the gun issue as well. And it's something that we've seen kind of play out this legislative session. But again, we are still working on trying to figure out what exactly happened. And I'm sure lawmakers are paying attention at the Capitol an hour away, as they are in the second half of the legislative session. So we'll see if this shooting sparks any new legislation out of that. Back to you.
All right, and as we continue to follow the very latest developments, and I think we can go back through the timeline for maybe people just joining us now, because the first alert came through the FSU alert system on X, and students got an alert that there was an active shooter potentially in the student union gathering area, and our colleagues and people we spoke with said that this was an area where a lot of students gather and congregate. Shortly after that, we received reports that students began running from the scene, that educators in the classroom told students to sort of hunker in place and began barricading the doors. And students also received another alert to say, you know, hunker down in place, don't move until you receive sort of an all clear word. Whatever you do, don't answer the door. We've heard from countless students at this point. Many of them decided to run from the scene to their cars and then make it to a safe place. And initially we were hearing reports that 4 people were injured. That has now been upgraded to 6 people. We confirmed a couple hours ago that one of the people shot was the alleged shooter, that there was some sort of incident between police and that active shooter, and that person was shot. And then the very latest information confirmed by our local affiliate reporting there, who we've been hearing from, and the hospital, is that 1 person is in critical condition, 5 people in serious condition, including the shooter who was also shot by police.
Naja, a moment ago, the reporter in Tallahassee made an interesting observation. He said that the Florida legislature is currently in custody. Our lawmakers are right there in Tallahassee, and he was wondering, will we hear anything from our state legislature? Will our lawmakers say some action needs to be taken in order to stop these senseless and horrific shootings? If history is any indication, most probably no, because in the past we have heard condolences, we've heard prayers, thoughts and prayers, and then we've heard the other side who comes out also calling for gun control, and then there's a debate for a while, and then things go back to normal the way they were. So we'll see if that happens again this time. But right now, let's go back to Tallahassee. I have on the line Dominic Mancuso. And Dominic, you're a student there, Florida State. Tell us where you were when you heard what was happening.
Hello, good afternoon. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, yeah. So I was at the Leach Student Recreation Center, which is basically the gym here at Florida State. I was just in the middle of a workout. I had my headphones in, and then all of a sudden I see people just like start running, and I hear the intercom going like very loud. I take out my earbuds, and they start saying active shooter, active shooter. Everybody get to the locker rooms, so everybody's running. And in the midst of all this, I'm trying to stay calm, so I'm trying to like address the situation, ask around what's going on, and yeah, so we find out there's an active shooter at the student union, which is about 10 minutes from the Leach. So we kind of all had an idea that we were pretty safe at the time. But, there was about me and 10 other guys in the locker room. We went to the faculty locker room. And, there was a lot of texting going on. I personally didn't have any connection, so I couldn't make any phone calls, only to my mom and my dad I was able to get on the phone with and tell them what's going on. But after about an hour and a half, there's a bunch of videos going around. Like, nobody really knows what's going on, like how many people are dead, how many people are injured. But all we know right now is that we're all safe. The SWAT had come to get us about after an hour and a half. They evacuated all of us, and I think we're currently being transported to the Civic Center. But yeah, we're all safe. The SWAT came in, they did their job. So yeah, but it's just been an absolute shock to all of us.
Dominic,
to go through something like this, you never would have expected.
Dominic, what was going through your mind when you're at the gym working out, a nice day there in Tallahassee, and all of a sudden you get this news? What went through your mind?
Yeah, so one thing my dad taught me as a kid was no matter what everybody else is thinking, always remain calm. So that was the first thing I thought of: just stay calm, relax, address the situation properly, take it step by step, because like everybody is screaming their heads off, like. Everybody's in a big commotion, but I just wanted to be level-headed and yeah, take it step at a time, because I knew that it was 10 minutes away. So the fact that the chances of a shooter coming like 10 minutes, a 10-minute walk would be pretty insane.
So did you guys lock yourself in a room? You stayed inside the gym. What did you do?
Yes. So they moved us to the locker room, but the actual locker room doors didn't have locks on them. But the staff had locked the entire building, so there was no way that the shooter or an invader could come into the building.
Did you check in? Have you checked in with your friends there in Tallahassee, fellow students, see how they're doing?
Yes. I got a couple of phone calls, but like I said, I didn't have any connection, so I was unable to get in touch with them at the time of the event. But now that I'm outside, I have connection. I'm reaching out to everybody, and everybody's saying they're safe, they're in their dorm. But yeah, just a lot of commotion, but it seems to be settling down.
Sure, and describe that moment when you were actually able to connect with your friends or family and loved ones and tell them that you were okay. What was the conversation that you had?
Yeah, well, I mean, my mom and dad were the first ones I spoke to on the phone with, so I told them, everything's going to be fine. We're safe in here. But yeah, like connecting to everybody, just to see that everybody was reaching out, honestly, was really a great thing to hear, that people still have your back, especially in these type of moments, because a lot of people, you think in these like moments of adrenaline rush, it's just like I need to take care of myself. But everybody, it's good to know that people are still careful about each other.
You talk about that moment of adrenaline rush, but you were on the treadmill, you had your ear pods in. Did you immediately know what was happening was real, or was there a sort of moment where you thought maybe it was just a drill?
Yeah. So for like a split second, when I saw everybody running, I was thinking fire drill immediately, because I actually didn't hear them say active shooter at first, but I quickly heard, like I literally asked people around me, and everybody said, yeah, they said active shooter. So I was like, this is definitely not a drill. And even if it is, treat it like it's not.
Dominic,
because it's serious.
Let me ask you another question before we let you go. Moving forward, how safe do you feel there at FSU, and do you plan to change any behavior from now on?
Yeah, I mean, this is definitely one of those events where you really can't plan for. I've never in a million years would have thought this would happen at FSU. And I think Tallahassee as a whole, took care of the situation very well. I'm pretty sure they got police from Jacksonville, from what I've heard. So they got the SWAT team here. They made all of us feel safe. But yeah, I think, going forward, there's probably going to be more safety protocols taken into place, which is definitely necessary. But yeah, this is something you can't plan for.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
You said SWAT moved in. Are you still gathered with a group of students right now?
Yeah, so I think I'm outside of the leach, and I'm not sure if they're letting me go back to my dorm, but that would be towards Central Campus, and I think they said not to do that. So I think I'm kind of just walking. Let me see. Yeah, I think I'm getting on a bus right now as we speak, and I'm about to see where it takes us. 1 second. Excuse me, where does this bus go to? The Civic Center. Okay, so they're taking us to the Civic Center.
Yeah, the Civic Center, our understanding is that is the family reunification point.
Yeah, about how many students are you surrounded by right now?
I'm currently in a bus with about 15 people. So I think they're just trying to get us all in one place. That's their goal.
Okay, so this is it's the Donald Tucker Civic Center. That is the student reunification point. Earlier we saw some shots of people waiting to get in there, and the buses are taking students there. Okay, because we heard earlier from another student that she couldn't get her car. Her car was parked in an area that was cordoned off. So what they're doing is they're busing people or sending people over to the Donald Tucker Convention Center there on Civic Center there on campus, and that will be the reunification area for students with their friends, family members. I'm sure they'll be able to, make a phone call from there and let their family know that they're okay. As I mentioned earlier, there are so many students from South Florida that attend college in Tallahassee at Florida State University, and also the community college there nearby. A lot of them will transfer after 2 years. So we have a very strong connection between South Florida and Tallahassee. Dominic Mancuso, we're going to let you go. Thank you very much for sharing your experience.
Thank you very much, guys.
And good job staying calm, and
Yes.
thank you.
So
Stay
glad
safe.
that you are safe. Thank you for being with us.
Appreciate it. Boy, Naja, what a difference this generation has grown up with this fear of an active shooter in their school and going through the drills from the time they're little.
Right. It's just sort of the way of life for this generation, but also difficult, I think, in this particular situation. Some of the students I spoke with said that it was difficult to differentiate what was going on because there were a number of things happening. There's a lot of construction happening in the area. Officials were conducting a drill independently, so there was sort of a point where they didn't know whether or not what they were hearing was related to that, and then the actual situation, which was the active shooter in campus. So just to hear the one student describe that he knew that they were in a real life active shooter situation when he heard 12 gunshots, then a pause, then 15 more gunshots, and then literally heard those bullets ricocheting off the building. And then that's when students just started to all run in one direction. They described teachers saying this is a real active shooter situation, shelter in place, and then began barricading the door. And some students said, "Let me out, I want to go," and made the decision to leave the classroom and ran to their car and then found their safe space. But we have a live interview right now. Let's go out to Tallahassee.
Florida Highway Patrol, Tallahassee Police, just to name a few. Everybody is really all hands on deck here. We've seen them carrying large rifles, everybody going into the building in groups of 10 or so. I've also seen students coming out of the building in small groups with their hands in the air being escorted by law enforcement. And so we're going to give you another look at the scene, especially if you're just joining us, right outside of the student union here. If you look over there at the Moore Auditorium, you can see that is where law enforcement have been staging for the majority of the time that I've been here. And then if we take a look across the lawn, you can kind of see some of the evidence that there was some sort of panic. If you look on the ground there, it looks like what appears to be clothing. And then even further over, we can see a shoe on the ground. There's another bag on the ground. Some people I spoke to say it was sheer panic whenever they heard the shots. Some people said they heard it but just didn't see anything, but they heard people yelling and screaming. And from here, what I've been told, just a very emotional day. Very unexpected, of course, but also emotions just high. People have been trying to understand exactly what happened and what we're dealing with here. Of course, we're still learning more as well, but you can see even right there on the ground what we think is some sort of shattered glass. It's hard to tell from where we are. We are on the other side of the fence, just trying to remain safe and out of the way of law enforcement, but it does look like some sort of shattered glass. And actually, while I was standing here not too long ago, noticed a golf cart with a bullet hole in it. And I was told by someone nearby that the shooter did shoot over at that golf cart before possibly shooting some other people. So a few people have been out here who have seen the entire thing. Just undescribable, really, is what people have been telling me. And you can see what we're seeing from our vantage point. And of course, we're going to continue to learn more. We're going to continue to talk to people. Still a lot to unfold. And so many people that I've spoken to today just have the question, why? And at this point, of course, there's really no answer. But I'll send it back to you guys.
And
okay,
such a riveting question, right?
Yeah.
Why?
Live report that it's a police scene, a crime scene behind her. I don't know if you noticed the shattered glass. I also noticed there was a shoe that was thrown there, and she mentioned that shots were fired at a golf cart.
And she said she actually saw the bullet holes in the golf cart. We have another live reporter from the scene. Let's go back out to Tallahassee.
Fire trucks, ambulances have all left this area recently. We've also seen bus loads of students go by here, presumably to the Civic Center for the Reunification Center. Now, again, this shooting is like all other school shootings, getting attention across the country. The president had put out a statement recently that he is monitoring the situation. Lawmakers are about a mile away from here at the Capitol for the legislative session, and they are putting out their statements as well. Governor Ron DeSantis posted on X earlier that his thoughts and prayers are with the FSU family and state law enforcement. Speaker Perez, who is a graduate of Florida State University, says that this is a parent's worst nightmare, and they're continuing to monitor the situation, urging the thoughts and prayers for students, families, faculty, first responders, and all involved. Representative Gallup Franklin, the Democrat that represents this area, he issued a statement saying that he stands with our students, educators, families, and neighbors during this time of uncertainty, of grief. Schools, colleges, and universities must be places of learning and safety, not fear. Once we have the full details of this heinous act, we must act with purpose and urgency to prevent tragedies like this from happening again. So, yeah, this is definitely something that a lot of people have not expected. I've been talking with students as they walk by this area. Many of them were in buildings near the student union when the shooting happened. They heard the gunshots. They were on lockdown. They saw the chaos outside their window as police were trying to kind of get the situation under control, and they are shaken up. We've seen a wide range of emotions. We've talked to one parent who's in constant contact with his daughter as soon as the shooting started, and he was said that his daughter was calm when she was inside, then they got moved outside, then her anxiety picked up, that she went back inside. So a lot of emotions here at Florida State University as they try to figure out what happened here today. And again, the police say that they have the shooter in custody, and that there are several victims being treated at Tallahassee Memorial Hospital. Back to you.
So we know a total of 6 people are being treated right now, and that's up from initial reports of 4. And we have been able to confirm with hospital officials a total of 6 people are being treated, some in critical, some in serious. And the actual active shooter, him or herself, was also shot by police during their some sort of whatever happened between them. The actual active shooter was shot as well and is receiving treatment. The hospital officials were able to confirm that for us as well.
Yeah, and we've heard that the Center for Police Activity right now on the campus for police and also the fire rescue workers is the Moore Auditorium. However, the Family Reunification Center is at the Tucker Civic Center, and that's where they're taking family members, they're taking students, a lot of students that they got locked out of their dorms, or they can't get into the parking garage where they had left their cars. We saw one young lady said she can't even get to her book bag and her belongings, so they're sending people to the Tucker Civic Center. That is a family reunification point right now in Tallahassee, waiting for that reporter to get back on the air. But again, the Moore Auditorium is the gathering point for the police officers and the fire rescue personnel. We're also hearing that at 4 p.m. this afternoon, there will be a news conference at Florida State University. We would assume that we will hear from university officials as well as police officials that can give us more information about what we have. But what we know so far that we can confirm is that there was a shooting shortly after noon at Florida State University near the Student Union, and that 5 people have been injured in serious condition, 1 in critical condition. We also know that the shooter has been taken into custody, was injured, was shot by police, and has been taken into custody. No word on the shooter's condition or a motive for the shooting. And so many times, Naja, we never really figure out what the motive is. It's somebody with mental health problems, or we really can't understand it. But the reporter again mentioned that the Florida legislature is in session right now, so our lawmakers are right there about a mile away from this, so it'll be interesting to hear what they say. We've heard from Governor DeSantis saying that his prayers are with the folks there in Tallahassee at the school, also from our junior senator now, Ashley Moody in Tallahassee, also saying that she is praying for everybody involved. You're going to hear also from those who say we need to hear more than that. What are we doing to keep our students safe at our state universities?
Yeah, in addition, we heard from President Trump. He was fully briefed on the FSU shooting. He opened the meeting with the Italian PM addressing the shooting, and this alert just coming in. It's continue to shelter in place. Police have responded to an active shooter call at the Student Union. Stay alert for more information. That was the alerts coming out throughout the afternoon when this first all broke out around noon. Students that we spoke with said that they were told that when everything was safe and good to go, that they would be given the all clear. And about 45 minutes ago, we spoke with a student who said they've been given the word to look for, but have not received that official notification that it is all clear at this point, as officials continue to investigate the situation. We spoke to a student just a short time ago, and he talked about loading a bus with about 50 other students for that reunification location, but described that in a moment that he wasn't able to make calls out of campus, that was a concern, but that he described being on a treadmill at the student gym, and sort of he had his headphones in and was listening to music, and all of a sudden saw students starting to run, and he thought maybe it was just a fire drill, and then he realized that it was a real drill, that it was an active shooter drill. We've heard from so many students and family members today. I think one of the most riveting would have to be the student who just talked about hearing a round of about 30 shots fired, and then hearing those bullets ricochet off buildings, and knowing that he was close enough to that active shooter situation that he really needed to run for his safety. And then that parent who was doing a college tour, right, and looking at FSU as a potential option for his child, and an active shooter situation broke out in real time on campus while they were exploring FSU as an option. We've talked about how in this day and age it is an unfortunate reality, but students still describing it as just surreal. You never get used to something like this, and you really never should.
I just wonder if the fear will come later. Later on, they're going to realize, oh my God, what did I just go through? But I have to tell you, Naja, I'm so impressed when I hear some of these young people. That young man who said that he was in the gym working out, and when he heard about this, that the first thing he thought of were his parents taught him is to stay calm in a situation like that, which in fact is exactly what he did. He remained calm. He stayed in place. They stayed inside that gym. They knew they were safe there for the time being, so they waited to hear more information before they just ran out and potentially get yourself into more danger. We also heard from that young lady a little while ago that she put her trust in her faith. She said that she's Christian, her religious faith is strong, and that's what kept her strong during this situation. So really impressed. And then we also heard from a young man earlier who said that he was going by what he's learned throughout his life as a student in school, going through active shooter drills, and that at Florida State University, this is something that was discussed, that they did have in mind. They never thought that it would happen, but they knew that this is, like you mentioned, a reality of the world that we live in. It's something that you and I didn't have to worry about when we went to college, but these students seem to just accept it, and maybe maybe not accept it, but they're dealing with it in just a very admirable way.
Sure, I certainly thought that was a poignant moment when the young woman said that she was relying on her faith, and also was reminded of the fact that we are just a couple days away from Easter, and what a terrifying thing for friends and family to hear that there is an active shooter situation at their child's university anytime, and just days before a family holiday, just days before Easter. Fortunately, at this point, we know that there are no fatalities at this point, but we know that 6 people, including the alleged shooter, are hurt, some in serious condition right now. That's the latest update from both our local CBS affiliate and the hospital in Tallahassee that has confirmed that they are treating 6 people right now. But again, this all happening just a couple days before the Easter holiday, where a lot of these students will be heading home for the holiday and gathering with their families for a weekend of reflection and prayer. And so for something like this to happen just days before that holiday is just going to be really tough for a lot of households, because as you've mentioned, Elliot, so many people here locally and across the state of Florida have a personal connection to FSU.
Yeah, I mentioned earlier, you know, my daughter is a Seminole. She graduated from Florida State University, the same with my niece and my nephew, and so many kids from South Florida end up going to Tallahassee, and that's why we're staying with this continuing coverage, because the information is coming in little by little, and there's a lot of misinformation out there, a lot of stories, and there was also a picture that was floating around in social media that turned out not to be true. So that's why we're staying here, trying to get you the most accurate information we can, because we understand the connection between South Florida and Tallahassee. In fact, right now, let's go to the reporter for WCTV in Tallahassee.
And they were able to see the chaos outside the window around the student union nearby. So it's a very chaotic scene for these students that were there on campus as they were just trying to go about their day. Now, we are getting a lot of reactions now from leaders across the state here in Florida, from our federal delegation in D.C., Congressman Neil Dunn, who represents the Tallahassee area, says that it's too early to understand the extent of the violence, but the early reports are very disturbing as well. And we're hearing from the governor, who's offering his thoughts and prayers. The attorney general is saying that they are here on the scene working with law enforcement, and again offering thoughts and prayers. The state representative from Tallahassee, the Democrat, is saying that they need to understand what happened, and change needs to happen once they get a full picture, as we're dealing with this grief here in Tallahassee. So a wide range of emotions right now here in Tallahassee at Florida State University. Deborah?
All right, I want to go now to another student we have at location, Cody Butler. Cody, can you hear us? Oh, Cody Butler, that was just the live reporter we were hearing from. Yeah, I think the students right now are just in sort of disbelief. They've described it as very surreal and difficult to process, because, you know, as often as things happen, and they happen more often than they should, we should never get used to this. This should never just be a thing that we say, this is just the day and the times that we live in.
Yeah, the emergency alert, Naja, that was sent to students at Florida State said, and this was 2 hours ago already, this is an emergency message for Florida State University, Tallahassee campus, continue to shelter in place. Police have responded to an active shooter call at the student union. Stay alert for more information. And now we can tell you that the shooter is in custody. The shooter is in custody, has been injured by police. We do not have information about any other shooter. We do have an interview now that we're going to play. This is a father who happened to be visiting the campus, thinking about sending his daughter to Florida State University when he heard about this.
My daughter was waiting at the table. We were looking at the menu, and I couldn't believe it. Like, shots started. It was surreal, and people just started running. She got trampled over. We went through an exit door, ran down a hall, and all the doors were locked except one going up a flight of stairs to exit. And we didn't think that would be a good idea, but we were all, there was about 70 of us or 50 of us in that, and we were just like trapped. And that was probably the scariest point, because we didn't know, you know, it could get worse, right? The doors open, and, you know, 2 officers were there, guns drawn, yelled, "Did you see anything?" We're like, "No." "How do we get out?" They pointed that way, and just the adrenaline, we got outside, and just here we are. We ended up in a church.
Okay, so that's a father who was visiting Florida State University with his daughter. They were just getting ready to get something to eat. This happened right at lunchtime, as a matter of fact, and that's when they got that alert, the alert that we just read a little while ago.
Yeah, the first alert went out around 12:01, so almost 3 hours ago. And when we look at everything that has unfolded within the last few hours, SWAT officials quickly surrounded the area, and really do have to commend them on how they've handled the situation. We spoke to an emergency.
Can I get a plan on what you guys are planning on doing with me?
Official shortly ago with a connection. You're hearing the reporter live from the scene, who will continue to touch bases with as they get new information. But the very latest information just in, 6 people were hurt, and sort of a sigh of relief, we are able to confirm that the alleged gunman is in custody and was injured, him or herself. So there is no active shooter threat at this point. The latest alert from FSU went out about 2 hours ago, and that's where they said to continue to shelter in place. And they said that they would alert students with a safe word that they were aware of when it was safe to move about campus freely. And at last word, students still have not received that, but we do know that students are loading buses. We spoke to one who said he was getting on a bus with about 50 other students and going to the Reunification zone right now. But just terrifying for people who have loved ones who attend FSU. So many people have a personal connection or history to this school, so this hits hard for a lot of people in our community right now.
Yeah, it certainly does. And those students are being taken by bus to the Tucker Civic Center. That's the Family Reunification Center that Naja mentioned. We also know that the gathering point for the police officers and the fire rescue personnel is the Moore Auditorium there on the campus of Florida State University. And Naja, one of the things I've noticed all the interviews we've done with the students there is that everybody's very complimentary of the police for how quickly they are able to respond to these active shooter situations. And we do see that over and over again, where the police are there quickly in just a matter of minutes. But the sad part is that in the matter of minutes, so much damage can be done. And that's what we're seeing here with 6 people now very seriously hurt. We have 5 in serious condition, 1 in critical condition, and the gunman again injured and taken into custody.
Yes, thank goodness. A sigh of relief there that suspect is in custody. We do have another student with us right now, Emily. Emily, can you hear us?
Yes, ma'am, I can.
Emily, we are so sorry that these are the circumstances that we are speaking with you on. Describe where you were when the shots first rang out.
So according to the timeline, my roommate and I were walking just past the Union and Bellamy. We saw a large group of people walking pretty quickly, but we didn't think anything of it. We just thought it was like a tour group. We were passing by College of Music when we overheard some workers yelling, like, "Run somewhere safe, run." And a girl started running past us saying, "The police are coming, there's a gun." So we started sprinting away from campus.
Emily, what did you do at that moment? Where did you run to?
We just ran as far from campus as we could, just kept running.
What was going through your mind?
At the time, I was thinking, I just got to get away. I don't know where this is even happening. I just got to get away.
And now that we've been able to identify that it happened in the student gathering, the student union area, how close were you in proximity to where the shooting was actually happening?
I would say we were very close, probably around 20 feet.
20 feet. Did you hear gunshots?
We hear a lot of construction, like, all the time, so I think we just assumed it was construction.
And that's the account that I've heard from a lot of students today, that there were multiple things happening. There was construction going on, there was a training exercise, and so people weren't sure if what they were hearing was actually an active shooter. So when did it register to you that there was an active shooter on campus?
Honestly, once we heard someone say gun, I didn't even hear that. My roommate did. So she said, "We need to run now." And then we started running, and then a bunch of people behind us, a whole group of people started running behind us. Then it started registering to me, this is a really bad situation. But it took a while to hit. I think I was just in a state of shock.
Emily, we talked to other students who said that they've grown up with active shooter drills in school. Was that your experience?
I have personally not had an active shooter drill at FSU.
Or at school at any point for you?
I have had it in high school, but not in my university life.
So how do you feel now? Do you feel safe at Florida State?
I personally do not.
What would you like to see happen? I mean, our lawmakers are there in Tallahassee, and they're in session right now. What would be your message to them?
I personally believe we need to rethink our gun laws, because I think it is crazy how easy it is to get a gun in this country, and it's putting our whole community at risk.
Can you describe the moment when you were able to talk to your loved ones and let them know that you were safe? What was the conversation you had?
I called my mom and I said that there's a gun here. I don't know any other details, but that I was panicked and I was upset. And my mom started freaking out, but I think God was truly with me, and I owe it all to him, because thank God I'm so safe right now.
Have you talked to your fellow students there? What's the feeling among the students that you've been talking to?
Overall, I think it's a lot of confusion and paranoia. Over the course of the past few hours, there's been a lot of misinformation, I think. A lot of people are making insensitive jokes, which I will never understand why. But I think a lot of people use humor to cope. But
Absolutely.
A lot of misinformation, I think.
Mm-hmm. Where are you now?
I am off campus safe.
Oh, good. Good to hear. Mm-hmm. Will you be changing anything, any routines moving forward?
I am often on campus, often at the Union, often in social areas. I will have to rethink this, knowing that there could be someone holding a gun at any time. You never know how someone's mental state can change so quick, and it really makes you rethink public gatherings.
Well, Emily, we are very happy that you're okay. We're sorry you had to go through this situation, and hopefully you're right, something will be done. Moving forward, we will continue to follow it, but we're just happy that you're doing okay.
Yeah, and also receiving reports that FSU has put out another update, and they are at this hour still encouraging or asking students to shelter in place until further notice. We received word that there is a safe word that all students have received through their email. And so when they receive that safe word, that is when they are all cleared to roam about campus as usual. And the university has not sent out that email yet. So if you have a loved one or a student who attends FSU right now, they are still being actively urged to shelter in place until further notice. And this is a situation that's going on more than 3 hours now. I can only imagine just the phone call when the students call home and let their parents know that they're okay, how that moment must have felt or been, because now this is something obviously President Trump has commented on, our Governor Ron DeSantis, our local lawmakers are all chiming in now at this point. So everyone in the world knows what's happening at FSU campus, and I can't imagine just how terrifying it would be for parents right now to know that their child is there.
Yeah, what a relief to get that phone call that your child is okay right after something like this, but getting that initial phone call, because so many of these kids, the first thing they do is they pick up the phone and call their parents.
Absolutely.
They want to check in with their parents, and I was very impressed with that young man that we talked to earlier who was at the gym. I think his name was Dominic, and he said the first thing he did was call his parents, and that he remembered something that his parents had taught him, is to remain calm. Don't panic. The last thing in the world that he should have done is to go start running out. He stayed in place, shelter in place, which is the advice that the Florida State University security officials gave the students. Shelter in place, lock the door, stay someplace that you're safe, and wait for this to pass over, and then come out. But 6 hurt in this shooting. You're looking at video from our CBS affiliate there in Tallahassee. They are reporting to us that 5 people are in serious condition. 1 is in critical condition, and that the gunman was shot by police and is now in custody. We've heard from several students there at Florida State University who found out about this. They were just going about their daily life there at the campus. Some of them were near the student union, and there were reports that students could see paramedics treating people on the lawn there. And Nasha, that would explain, we saw some broken glass, and we saw some shoes that were left there. That looks, and there was police tape around there. That looks like the area where possibly some injured people were being treated at the scene before they were put into ambulances and then sent to the hospital. Again, 5 of them in serious condition, 1 in critical.
Yeah, we also heard from a reporter there who said she actually saw a bullet hole in a golf court, and that was near the scene where you described the broken glass, and you mentioned that there was a shoe in the area. But when you talk about the composure of these students, this is something that I noticed from the very beginning when we first received these alerts at noon. We were working to confirm that it was an actual active shooter and a real incident happening, because the students were moving about campus so composed. You wouldn't have known by the live video or the live images that we were seeing that there was actually an active shooter on campus, and it was difficult even for the students to differentiate what was going on, because there was a law enforcement drill happening, because there was construction. We've heard a number of students attest to the fact that there was so much noise going on that they weren't even sure that what they were hearing was gunshots until we heard that live interview with a student who said he literally heard those shots ricocheting off buildings. And of course, just the riveting conversation that we heard with the father who was on a college tour with his child when this happened. But yes, we've noted the amazing job of emergency responders and law enforcement. The students have as well, but we also have to note just the centered mentality that these students have. Maybe it's just the times that we live in, because they are just so accustomed now to knowing that this is a reality. This is the world we live in, that active shooters on campuses is a reality. It's such an unfortunate thing, but it continues to happen. And ironically, we know lawmakers are gathering nearby. Certainly this now happening in Tallahassee, where lawmakers are gathered not far from where this active shooter happened, makes this even a more pressing issue. But at this point, we've even heard students say that something has to change, that that this is happening too often in our communities, in our schools, on our college campuses.
Yeah, I want to read a tweet that was just sent out by Fred Guttenberg. Fred's daughter, Jamie, was murdered in the Parkland school shooting, and Fred says many of Jamie's friends who were lucky enough to survive that shooting went on to attend FSU. Incredibly, some of them were just a part of their second school shooting, and some were in the student union today. So can you imagine that? Students who went through the Parkland tragedy that many years ago, now being at Florida State University. As a father, all I ever wanted after the Parkland shooting was to help our children be safe. Sadly, because of the many people who refuse to do the right thing about reducing gun violence, I am not surprised by what happened today. That's Fred Guttenberg, who lost his daughter and has been an advocate, a very strong and vocal advocate for tougher gun laws and doing something about gun violence in the United States.
It's horrific and difficult to comprehend that someone could have survived the Parkland shooting and then yet again going through something similar. It's just difficult to comprehend and unacceptable. We want to go now to Elia. I believe that we have another interview with a FSU student. Can you hear us okay?
Yes, hi.
Hi, thank you so much for being with us. So sorry, Tanya. So sorry that it's under these circumstances. Just describe where you were when those shots rang out.
So I was in class and it was like 12 p.m. and my roommate texted me because we live very close by to the union. It's probably like a 5-minute walk. And she said, I heard shots fired. I'm seeing people running. Like 2 seconds later, a student in my class stood up and announced that there was an active shooter on campus. And then like 2 seconds later after that, the announcement went over the speaker and we were asked to shelter in place.
And so did you shelter? I know some students made the decision to run from the scene. Some listened to their educators and sheltered in place. What did you do?
No, at that point, like the entire class was like, we all stood up and we turned off the lights, closed the doors, and those doors didn't have locks on them, which was pretty insane. But yeah, so we stayed there until I think around 1:40 or so. Two employees, not policemen or cops or anything, came in and they were like offering Powerade and water, and then they transferred us, the employees, to the main health and wellness center up into the 4th floor where we were all together and the buildings were locked.
I've heard some reports of teachers in the same situation as you're describing where there's not locks on the doors and they began barricading the doors. What did your teacher do?
Our desks in that classroom are immovable, so the chairs are all connected, so we had nothing.
That had to have been terrifying.
Yeah.
Anya, what's your state of mind right now? Do you feel safe attending Florida State University?
Honestly, no. There's been situations at the union in the past that have happened, and I'm honestly like shocked that this was possible, that someone was able to walk into such a densely populated area on our campus in the middle of the day. People are sitting there studying. There's 4 floors, and there's no security, no nothing.
And the students we've spoken with, in addition to you, have mentioned that the student union place is a huge gathering space for students, that's a densely populated area where a lot of students congregate and gather.
Yes, there's like classrooms there, meetings happen there all the time. Like, it's just insane. There isn't security there for us to feel safe.
What would you like to see done about this, Anya? You would like to see more security in some of those places where students gather. Is there anything else that you think should be done at this point?
I want to see the people in charge do something about this, take actual change with gun reform laws. I blame DeSantis and I blame Donald Trump for these things happening over and over and over again. We do not, like, how? Like, we pay to come here. We're supposed to feel safe. Do something else other than sending out a tweet saying your thoughts and prayers are with us. Disgusting.
That's not doing it for you?
No, it's not doing it for anyone.
Well, lawmakers are gathering right now in Tallahassee, just a short distance away from the university. So hopefully they hear your plea and are paying very close attention to what we are hearing from the students. Thank you so much for sharing your perspective with us. And just want to recap for those of you just joining us, because we've been live on air for continuous coverage for more than 3 hours now. At least 6 people have been hospitalized and 1 person is in custody after a shooter opened fire at Florida State University campus. We know this happened around 12:01. That's when the first alert went out. The shooter was reported in the area of the student union, and we have been able to confirm that information. And authorities took that shooter into custody around 2 p.m. We have also been able to confirm via our local affiliate reporting at the area and the hospital that that shooter was injured. Officials with Tallahassee Memorial Hospital confirming as well that 6 victims are hospitalized. We know 5 of them are in serious condition right now, and 1 person is in critical condition. Our authorities right now are still urging anyone on Florida State's campus to wait for further instructions. So they're asking people to continue to shelter in place until further notice. And students have been given a safe word, and so check your emails. They're saying when you receive notification of that safe word, that's when you know that it is all clear and that you can continue to move about. But right now, students still being urged to shelter in place, and then also students being relocated or bused to a reunification location.
Yeah, and we should point out that we have not gotten any information whatsoever about the shooter. Who is this person? How badly was this person injured? We have reports that the person was injured, is now in custody, and was injured during a shootout with police. We do not know the extent of the injuries, and we have not heard anything about a potential motive. Was this person a former student? Was this person somebody who worked at Florida State University? We do not know. And so many of the students that we talk to say that moving forward, they don't feel safe. They do not feel safe going to the school and being in areas. We just heard that young lady there saying that the student union is crowded with people, and she would like to see more security. She'd also like to see stricter gun laws so that it's harder for somebody to obtain a weapon to do damage like this, because anybody could walk in with a gun. This is an outdoor area. They don't have metal detectors to go on the campus of Florida State University. And this is the frustration that so many people are feeling, especially when they hear some of the tweets and some of the comments that that their minds, and they're saying it, that these are empty words. It's not really changing anything because these shootings keep happening over and over. Let's see what happens this time around.
Yeah, and the irony, of course, lawmakers gathering just a short distance away right now. Governor Ron DeSantis putting out a tweet earlier saying our prayers are with our FSU family, and state law enforcement is actively responding. We also heard from President Trump, who released a statement just a short time ago at a press conference. He said it's a shame, a horrible thing, things like this take place, and we will have more to say about it later. We also received a statement from the local hospital, Tallahassee Memorial Healthcare. A representative wrote us saying TMH is actively receiving and caring for patients related to an incident that has occurred at Florida State University. At this time, details are still unfolding, and we do not yet have specific information to share. However, we want to assure the community that our teams are fully mobilized and prepared to provide the highest level of care and support to all those affected. We remain in close coordination with emergency responders and public safety officials out of respect for patient privacy and to ensure accurate information. We will provide updates as soon as they are available, and we know at this point 6 people receiving care right now. And we also have sound from a student who was there when the incident unfolded. We can take a listen.
I was parking my car, walking back, and as I was walking back, I see these group of girls crying, really upset, walking back from the student union, told me they heard gunshots, and they just ran and came back to their apartment where I was walking to. So I'm scared for my friends. I'm making sure I'm checking up on them, and I just hope everyone's okay and this gets handled soon. I just feel awful for the students on there having to go through these emotions right now, dealing with scared for their lives, honestly.
University. And now, we have some news now from Florida A&M University, which is minutes from Florida State in Tallahassee. FAMU is announcing that this afternoon, classes and student activities are canceled for the rest of the day. That's in response to the shooting. That's at Florida A&M University, which is only minutes away from Florida State. Employees have the option at FAMU to work remotely for the rest of the day. We're also told that Florida State University is canceling all home athletic events through Sunday. The canceled events include 3 baseball games and 3 softball games. It's not immediately clear if the FSU team scheduled on the road will also be affected, whether any games on the road will be canceled or postponed, but we know that all home games through Sunday for the FSU men's baseball team and for the women's softball teams have been canceled through Sunday as a result of this just horrific tragedy there on the campus at Florida State University. And we heard a little while ago from Fred Guttenberg, who lost his daughter in the Parkland shooting, and he was mentioning that a young student who had been at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School when the Parkland shooting occurred in 2018 could potentially be a junior or senior at Florida State University today. In fact, that's what Fred Guttenberg is claiming, that there's some students who had attended Marjorie Stoneman Douglas who went through that horrific tragedy and now are going through this tragedy in Tallahassee at Florida State University, a place where they should feel safe.
Yeah, it's difficult to comprehend that someone could have endured something so horrific, so tragic. And at the time when we think about the Parkland, that was one of the first. Something to that scale was not on our radar as a commonality. Unfortunately, that's changed. And so to think that someone would have survived Parkland and then is back yet again in a similar situation. We've also been able to confirm that Leon County schools in the area are still on lockdown. That's according to a school district spokesperson who just put out that information. So if you have loved ones in surrounding schools are still on lockdown, but they said they do not plan to change high school release times. So we're still waiting on a confirmation or what we can inform parents about release in the area. But Leon County schools, as a result of the active shooter situation, are still on lockdown as well. We've heard from so many students today who heard gunfire, who were near the active shooter, and are really counting their blessings, but also just saying this is so surreal and that they're angry with lawmakers, that they want to see action and they want to see something done, that this is happening too often. We do have another student joining us now, Emma, I believe. Emma, can you hear us? Okay, we'll get back with her shortly, but these students now say something has to be done. Emma, can you hear me? I'm just receiving word that...
Is it Emily?
Yes, I can hear you.
Emma, okay.
Yes.
Emma, where are you at right now?
Right now, I just got to my friend's apartment. I was lucky enough to get a ride. But yeah, I just evacuated campus.
And describe, but we're seeing a shot right now of an embrace, a student holding each other. What was the mood like on campus? You said you just got off campus. What was the mood like as you were leaving?
It was so scary. Like, I'm still shaking, to be honest with you. But I'm just grateful that me and all of my friends are okay. But just everyone came together and made sure to listen to all the alerts and stayed in place. And yeah.
Emma, where were you when you heard what was happening?
So I was actually in a group fitness class and the music was blasting, and my friend, she checked her phone and her sorority group chat was blowing up saying that there was an active shooter, and I actually had to alert the trainer that what was going on, and he turned down the music and we were able to hear the sirens, and we were escorted to the locker room where we hid for about 2 hours.
Who escorted you?
The workers at the fitness and movement clinic at FSU.
I see. So you stayed inside for a while?
Yeah, we stayed in the locker room for about 2 hours.
Wow. What was going through your mind?
I was just so scared. Everyone that I know was texting me, making sure that I was okay. And I was texting all of my friends to make sure they were okay. And I just, like, it's just so surreal. Like, I don't even know how to describe this feeling. It's just awful.
What's the first thing you said to your family or your loved ones when you were able to connect with them, and what did they say to you?
They told me that they loved me and that I told them I loved them, and it's just super scary. And they were just making sure that I was okay and in a safe place and that all my friends were okay.
How far were you from the student union?
I was actually very close to the student union, so that also added a lot of stress to the situation for me.
Well, how do you feel now? Do you feel safe there at Florida State?
I do. It's definitely scary just knowing that anything can happen at any given moment, but the law enforcement here is very strong. The presence is very strong. So moving forward, I hope that they take all the security measures and put things into place to make sure all the students are safe.
We've been talking to a lot of students who say that this situation feels surreal, but as people who work in news, unfortunately, we are reporting on these active shooter on campuses occurrences more often than what any of us would like. The reality is that this is very real for your generation. So when something like this happens, do you immediately sort of process what's happening, or is it still you don't know what to make of the situation?
It's so hard to process. When my friend said there's an active shooter because people were texting her, I couldn't even process that. I was like, is that real? I didn't even know if it was a joke or not, but I told the trainer to make sure that everyone was okay and we evacuated, because if not, I tried to get out of there as quickly as possible.
And were people running? What was the demeanor of the people who were evacuating?
People were running to the locker room to seek cover.
Would you say people were panicking?
I wouldn't say panicking, but just people were just honestly, everyone just had a look of disbelief in their face, and everyone was just on autopilot, just trying to seek cover.
Did you actually hear the shots? Because some students have been reporting that there was construction and a training drill going on, so they weren't able to identify that what they were hearing were actually gunshots.
I actually did not hear any gunshots because I was in a group fitness class where the music was playing very loud, so we can't really hear any outside noises.
Emma, let me ask you, and then we'll let you go. The Florida legislature is in session very close to Florida State University's campus. The lawmakers, our elected officials who make the laws for our state. Would you have a message for them?
Yes, of course. I definitely would like to tell them that we need to have more security measures in place to make sure that students at the university are safe. And yeah, it's a very important issue and pressing issue that definitely needs to be addressed.
Well, thank you.
Immediately.
Yes, we are very happy that you're doing okay, and we're sorry you had to go through what you did today, but you're a very strong young lady. Thank you very much.
Emma,
thank you so much.
Yeah, it really is riveting to hear just how centered these students are after going through something so traumatic, that
I'm
they
very
are
impressed with them.
Right, really incredible.
Absolutely.
We heard one student say that she was just really leaning on her faith, that she described herself as a Christian and said that she immediately went to her faith as a source of comfort, and that just immediately made me think we're just a couple days away from Easter, and how horrific for these families just a day before such a special family holiday for so many people in our community to receive a call that there was an active shooter on their child's campus, and the fear as a parent you can imagine of wondering, is my child hurt, is my child impacted, and then the moment that they finally got the call realizing that their child was okay. It's just so much for anyone to have to go through. And when we think about the amplified layer that so many families in our community dealt with Parkland, and then now to hear that some of those very people may be FSU students experiencing this again, it's just almost too much to grasp.
Yeah, we want to let our audience know that there's going to be a 4 p.m. news conference conference from Tallahassee, and once that begins, we will carry it for you live. We're staying with this continuing coverage because we know the strong connection between South Florida and Florida State University. So many kids, including my own, my daughter, I remember taking her to visit Florida State University, and she was my first child to go off to college, and it was such a big moment at that time. And then when I hear the story about a father who was doing the same thing that I did when I took my daughter there to go to college, and while he's there visiting with his daughter, they experience an active shooter on campus. That's just mind-boggling. But you're right, these young people today are so poised, so understanding of the reality that they live in, and handle it so impressively. It is a very, very strong generation, but you know, they did, you know, that we've been pointing out, and they've been saying it, that our lawmakers are in session right now in Tallahassee. We just heard that young lady say, yes, my message for the legislature is we need more security on our college campuses. We heard another young lady say, yes, we need stricter gun laws. We need something to be done about gun violence. Words about thoughts and prayers are just not doing it. That's just not enough. We elected you to make a difference, to do something. So let's do something. We have some video, I'm told, yes, from inside. Let's just look at this video. We're looking at it for the first time, so let's look at it together. We see people running. We heard that, Naja, from some of the witnesses we talked to, that immediately they started running.
And this is the first time we're seeing a video from a different vantage point.
Oh,
the video up until this point had been from outside of the campus, but this is a first-hand example, a student probably taking with their cell phone video. The video is from only in Dade, but you can see the students hunkering down, and that's what we've described or heard the students describe, that they got that active shooter alert from FSU campus alert system on X about 12:01, and then were immediately told to hunker in place. We heard students describe teachers began to barricade the door because, as other students have explained, some of the doors didn't have locks on them. And we heard students describe hearing those gunshots. One student told me he heard a round of 12, then a lull, and then another round of 15, a total of about 30 shots, and knowing that he was very close in proximity when he literally heard those bullets ricocheting off buildings. But this is a firsthand account of a student who is hunkering in place because of that active shooter situation, and the first time we're seeing it from this vantage point. The image was blurred, but we do know that the active shooter, the alleged active shooter, was taken into custody and was also injured by police during this incident as it unfolded.
And the students, all the students that we've talked to have been so impressed with the police response. The officers are trained to go towards the shooter, you know, which is counterintuitive. You would think, you know, you're hearing shots fired, you would go back, but they are trained to take out the shooter. That's the first thing they need to do. And we've learned this, you know, after Parkland, when there was the incident with one deputy that was actually charged with not failing to do his job, and there's civil suits and whatnot, but the officers are trained to go towards that shooter, put their life in jeopardy so they can neutralize the shooter. After the Parkland shooting, Naja, in 2018, there were some changes made by our legislature. Number one, they passed red flag laws, which Florida did not have, and now we do have. If somebody is deemed to be dangerous, the police can go in there and take their gun away. They also made it harder for an 18-year-old to buy a long rifle, which was the case in Parkland, where you had an 18-year-old walking into a gun shop and buying a long rifle because that's not restricted. Well, the legislature changed that back in 2018, but then it was changed back where now somebody 18 can buy a long rifle, just walk into a gun store and walk out with it. And that's what a lot of people cannot understand. We changed it after Parkland. Why did we change it back?
And of course, in regards to this particular active shooter situation, there's still so much unknown. We don't know who the shooter is or the motive behind the potential shooting, but we heard student after student make a direct plea to lawmakers lawmakers just saying that something needs to be done, that it's not enough, as we've heard lawmakers say, that their thoughts and prayers are with the people impacted at FSU, that there needs to be more definitive action that changes this from becoming an all too common occurrence. We know right now that lawmakers are meeting just a short distance away. We heard from Governor DeSantis. He said thoughts and prayers. We heard from President Trump, who also echoed a similar sentiment. But the students we've heard from today are just saying that's just not enough.
Right. They're saying that, we elected you to pass laws to protect us, not to pray for us, which of course that's a wonderful thing to do, but they expect more from their elected officials. So let's bring you up to date. We're waiting on a news conference there in Tallahassee at 4 p.m. We're going to bring it to you live. We know that the police are gathering at the Moore Auditorium with the firefighters. This is video. This is not live video. This is
video from earlier this afternoon.
Earlier, yeah. So we don't want you to get the wrong impression there. Families are being taken to the Tucker Civic Center. That's the family reunification spot. We saw earlier video of a grassy area where there had been a golf cart not far from there. There was some broken glass. We saw some debris on the ground, including some shoes. We believe that is the area where some of the victims were treated before they would put onto ambulances and taken to the hospital. We have 5 people right now in serious condition, 1 in critical condition, the gunman injured in confrontation with police, but no identification of the gunman so far, and of course no motive at this point. We've talked to students who were near the student union. A couple of them were, one was working out, the other one was also working out in a class, and got an alert, and she actually let the teacher know, or the instructor of the class, what was going on, and at that point they had everybody just stay in place, wait it out. She was 2 hours, she said, at the gym just waiting for things to calm down. And we talked to a student earlier who said that he remembers what his parents taught him, that in an emergency like that, stay calm, don't panic. And that's exactly what he did. He waited it out, he listened to the alerts and listened to what the police officer said once police finally got close to them, and they do have that word that you mentioned, right, that safety word that was sent out to them, so they knew what to do there.
Sure, yeah, the common center of the students have been truly remarkable, and we've been in continuous coverage for more than 3.5 hours now at this point, because we know so many people have a connection. Let's take a live listen to a student.
From Jacksonville. Oh, didn't realize it was right there. Sorry. What was your name?
I'm Carmen Marks.
Can you spell that for me?
K-A-R-M-Y-N and then M-A-R-K-S.
And where are you from originally?
I grew up in Atlanta, Georgia. Yeah.
So how long have you been at FSU? What year?
I'm a junior, so this is my 3rd year. Yeah, never thought this would happen.
Well, tell me, I mean, what has your experience been like today? What have you been hearing? I mean, how?
And Justin, we have been able to confirm that the FSU campus has been secured. So if you have a student who is on the campus, tell them to check their email, because school officials were going to. Okay, we have just received word that officials have neutralized the threat, so the all clear has been given. If you are just joining us now or just learning of this situation, we have been in continuous coverage for more than 3.5 hours right now because of the close connection with so many families and people in South Florida and FSU. So just to recap you from the beginning, we have been able to confirm that at least 6 people have been hospitalized and 1 person is in custody after a shooter opened fire on Florida State University campus. We received word that this happened around the student union area around 12 o'clock. And just before 2 p.m., officials brought that suspect into custody. We have also been able to confirm that that suspect was shot by police. Officials with Tallahassee Memorial Hospital did confirm that 6 people are hospitalized. We know 5 of them are in serious condition and 1 person is in critical condition. We don't know the condition of the shooter at this time, but a total of 6 people are being treated right now. And for hours, authorities urged everyone on Florida State campus to seek shelter. But as of just within the last couple of minutes, we have been able to confirm that the campus has been secured. The all clear is given, and students are now safe to move about campus freely. And the active shooter suspect is in custody. Certainly a sigh of relief for so many families who've been with us for the last 3.5 hours.
Yeah, that is good to hear. Many of those students right now are at the Tucker Civic Center. That's the family reunification place. We've heard a location rather. We heard that there have been students who were locked out of their dorms, locked out of they couldn't get to their cars because the parking lot was not accessible because there's still a police presence. But now we do have the news that the campus has been secured. So they have the gunman in custody. The campus has been secured, and now they are going to return to normal. We should be hearing from officials in about half an hour. A news conference has been scheduled from Tallahassee. We will bring it to you live right here on CBS News Miami. Again, our commitment to you is to bring you the latest information as accurate as we can make it, from the source as we can make it. We have a live camera there from our affiliate in Tallahassee, and the alert is on the screen right now if you can read it. Law enforcement has neutralized the threat. Please avoid the Student Union, Bellamy, HCB, Classroom Building, the Rovetta A and B, the Moore Auditorium, and then other locations on campus. There's a phone number where students or family members can call. That is the latest from Florida State University. Again, the campus has been secured. The gunman has been arrested, has been neutralized, but of course everybody is thinking about the victims. We have 6 people who have been hurt in this shooting, and we had seen some of the area where the injured were treated and taken by ambulance to the hospital. We have six people right now, 5 in serious condition, 1 person in critical condition.
And we also heard from a number of our lawmakers who are gathered very nearby for a session right now. Governor Ron DeSantis tweeting out that our prayers are with our FSU family, and state law enforcement is actively responding. That was sent out about 1:11 p.m. We also heard from the local hospital that said that out of respect for patient privacy rather, and to ensure accurate information, they're going to continue to provide updates as they become available. But they did confirm for us that 6 people are being treated right now. We know that area schools in Leon County were on lockdown as a precaution, but officials just giving the all clear right now. And again, we heard from just a number of students and commend them on just how centered and calm they stayed in the midst of something that is just horrific. All of them expressing not just horrific, but all too common, and making a direct plea to lawmakers to please do something so this doesn't continue to happen on our campuses and in our schools. We heard from President Trump, who was at a meeting with the Italian PM, making a statement saying that it was horrific, and we expect to hear more from him as well. But students at this point who have just gone through something that they describe as surreal, and still probably will have a lot to unpack and unfold and process as many of them head home for the Easter holiday weekend with their families, and are now going to have to unpack the weight of what they just experienced.
Absolutely. This may hit them a little bit later, right? It could be a delayed feelings that they experience. Let's listen to another student who went through this today.
I was completely in shock. I didn't think this could happen at Florida State. I mean, we're a pretty safe campus, but yeah, this is just like unheard of to me. I never had been in a school shooting before, active shooter. This is like the first time for me, and I was honestly in shock. My hands were shaking, just adrenaline kicked in, and I really didn't know what to do. I started tearing up, just like I was scared, to be honest. The shots rang out, and we were like, is that construction going on, or what was happening? And so we got up, looked out the window, and I remember looking outside and hearing 5 more shots go off, and I was like, what's going on? So I saw kids running away from the student union, and I walked away from the window, then I walked back to the window and heard 6, 7 more shots ring out, and at that point we were like, okay, there's a shooting going on.
And that's what we've been hearing from a lot of students, that it was sort of this compounded situation that was very difficult to differentiate what was going on, because you had a lot of construction in the area, so there's the noise attributed with that. And then you had Tallahassee officials who were conducting an independent drill, so they thought maybe it was related to that. And then the actual sounds of the gunfire, which students said they knew it was real when one student described actually hearing bullets ricochet off off the building. I want to let you know as well that we do have crews headed to Tallahassee. CBS News Miami's Ted Scouten is expected to be there very shortly, so look for his live reports. We have CBS News Miami's Anna McAllister. She's going to have live reports. So our crews have been actively making phone calls and getting the very latest information from inside the newsroom, but we also have a number of crews headed to the scene and working out in the field to bring you the very latest. But best news so far, having now been on air for nearly 4 hours, that the all clear has been given and that students can safely move about and go on with their day as best as they can.
Yeah, that is great news, and we are standing by for a news conference from Tallahassee. We were told after 4 p.m., and we expect to hear from university officials, the police department there in Tallahassee, to get the latest information. We'd like to know who was this person? Is there any kind of a motive that they know at this point? Is it too early to tell? And also, we'd like to know about the victims. Were these students? Were these people that faculty members, or just somebody who happened to be there in Tallahassee? We talked earlier to a father who was taking his daughter to visit, so there may have been more people like that who were just visiting the campus. Sadly, we reported the other day about a plane crash where it was a father, grandfather, and a daughter who was going to Florida State University when they had that tragic crash the other day near Boca Raton. So maybe this is a time where people are visiting Florida State University before kids make their decision on where to go in the fall. This is the last thing on earth that people would want to deal with. And can you imagine the trauma and the anxiety that these families are now facing after something like this happens? We have an interview now that we want to roll for you with the father who was visiting at the time. Listen.
My daughter was waiting at the table. We were looking at the menu, and I couldn't believe it. Like, shots started. It was surreal, and people just started running. She got trampled over. We went through an exit door, ran down a hall, and all the doors were locked except one going up a flight of stairs to exit. And we didn't think that would be a good idea, but there was about 70 of us or 50 of us in that, and we were just like trapped. And that was probably the scariest point, because we didn't know, it could get worse, right? The doors open, and 2 officers were there, guns drawn, yelled, "Did you see anything?" We're like, "No." "How do we get out?" They pointed that way, and just the adrenaline. We got outside, and just here we are. We ended up in a church.
Just horrific to hear his account. And then for the first time, this video from Oli and Dade, we are seeing this vantage point, which is very different than on the onset of the shooting, what we saw. This appears to be shot from someone who is actually hunkering down in place during that active shooting. And we heard students describe that teachers were barricading the doors with anything that they could find, because some of the desks were stationed in place and not mobile. But we see that student right there hunkering down in place. I want to let you know as well, Tallahassee Police Department just put out a statement on X confirming what we previously reported, that the Florida State campus has been secured, that multiple law enforcement agencies remain on site for the ongoing investigation. The student union and surrounding area are still considered an active crime scene, so individuals should not return to the area for any reason. So while the all clear has been given for students to move about safely, officials just asking everyone right now to avoid the student union area, because it is a very active crime scene, because there's still a lot of unknowns. We don't know anything really about the active shooter. We know the person was shot by police and being treated at the hospital and is in custody, but we don't know the circumstances or a motive for that active shooter. So it is still a very active crime scene, so students being urged to avoid that area. And we're seeing these images for the first time as well, as students, as they were evacuating and just calling home to let their friends and family know that they are safe, just days before the Easter holiday. And we think just how terrifying as a parent to hear that there is an active shooter at FSU campus. We see students embracing each other. Know that your student is there and just waiting for that phone call days before the holiday to hear that they are doing okay. It's just too much. Yeah. For so many families.
Yeah, and it is surprising to hear from one of the students who said that there aren't enough police officers there at the student union where a lot of students gather because Florida State, like other state universities, has its own police force. They are right there on the campus, and of course they had the Tallahassee Police Department responding as well. But in these active shooter situations, Naja, we see over and over again that this happens in a matter of seconds. So even if police respond in a minute or 2 or 3 minutes, the damage in so many cases has been done. And that may have been the case here. We don't know how long it took the police department to neutralize this shooter. We have seen video of officers running around the student union, so it couldn't have taken that long for the police to respond, but in many cases it's too late. Sure,
and we did shortly after the incident unfolded have a live interview with an officer who works for Miami Gardens but was a graduate of FSU and also a former Tallahassee police officer, and described that the response was sort of textbook, that they responded just as they should have in a situation like this. And we've heard a number of students commend their response as well and just say they did an amazing job. But you're right, it happens so quickly and so much damage can be done so quickly that even with the most efficient textbook response, can be, and as we've seen, deadly.
Yeah, so we just heard from that father who was having lunch with his daughter visiting campus. We have an interview with another father. Let's listen to that one.
We got a call from my daughter before it hit the news. We've been on the phone with her for over an hour ever since. As a father, my wife's in the car and a mother, we are concerned for our daughter, but at least we're talking to our daughter and know that she is safe. Our hearts and prayers and minds are to anyone who's possibly had a child or a relative who's been injured or possible loss of life. And as a new pastor here in Tallahassee at the Bethel AME Church family on Orange Avenue, I am praying for our city and for the Florida State University community.
Yeah, you ever think anything would happen here when you send your daughter here?
You don't think it's going to happen, but with the level of gun violence in our country and with the level of mass shootings that occur, I think research shows that our country has more mass shootings than anywhere else on the planet. You always think in the back of your mind that someday something could happen. And a lot of anger for me comes from our policy with guns. And even in the state of Florida, how we made it easier for persons to own guns. We can't be a country that love our children and the citizens and continue to have the kind of gun policies we do. And I know everyone's going to say, no, don't rush to gun policy. Maybe some mental issues here or something, but we got to do something about that.
And you've been talking with your daughter. What has she been telling you?
She's just been real nervous because of not knowing what's going on, feeling safe, and then feeling not safe with movement from movement, and just wanting this event to be over as far as this day and to be safe again in her home with her family.
And unfortunately, we've heard so many students today say that they just don't feel safe.
Yeah, and that pastor brings up some very good points. It is true that you don't see these types of mass shootings as frequently as we see them here in this country, nowhere near as frequently as we see them. And sometimes people accept it as, oh, it's just a part of life and let's move on. And, you know, we pray for the family. We're going to help you out with, you know, our thoughts and prayers are with you, but let's move on. There's nothing we can do about it. We're going to throw our hands up in the air and say, well, that's just part of living and there's nothing we can do. And people are saying, no, stop, wait a minute. We need to do something. This is just out of control. We have a generation of kids who have been growing up with these active shooter drills, and again, I've been very impressed listening to these young people there, but it shouldn't be happening. They should go to college and be safe and not feel like at some point there could be a deranged person with a weapon on campus causing this kind of inhumanity against other people.
Yeah, and details are still emerging, and it's still so early on about how the shooting unfolded, but there have been reports that students say they saw a college-aged man emerge from the student union with a handgun, and then heard, students have said, between 15 to 20 gunshots, some reporting as many as 30 gunshots, and then they say students just began fleeing the scene. Some took shelter. Apparently there's a church just across the street, so some found shelter in the church across the street. We heard students describe that teachers began barricading the doors in the classrooms because some of the doors didn't have locks. They were told to shelter in place, but some students, we heard earlier, say they made the decision. They felt like they were a safe enough distance away from where the gunshots were coming from that they decided to run to their cars, helping each other out. One student described giving someone they saw walking a ride to a safe location. And then just the moment that students shared with us that they were able to connect with their families and let them know that they are okay. 6 people hurt, including the alleged gunman, right now seeking treatment. The Tallahassee Police Department and Florida State campus did let us know that the proximity and the campus has been secured. They released a statement, Tallahassee Police, saying that multiple law enforcement agencies remain on site for this investigation. The student union and surrounding areas are still considered to be an active crime scene, so that's really important that we let people know that even though the all clear has been given and that the suspect is in custody, that they're asking people to avoid that area and not return for any reason because it is an active crime scene. We know in about 15 minutes we're expecting to have a live press conference from officials with the very latest information, so that will happen in about 15 minutes. But we have been on the air for continuous coverage for nearly 4 hours now because we know that so many people have a personal connection to FSU, and this is something that hits incredibly close to home, whether you have a friend or a loved one or yourself, you attended there and graduated from FSU. This hits really personal to a lot of people.
Yeah, and as of about 30 or so minutes ago, law enforcement neutralized the threat, and officials are asking students and faculty to avoid the student union and several other areas that are still considered an active crime scene. However, the university has lifted the lockdown. So right now they do have that crime scene, and there was that area, Naja, that we saw, that grassy area that police had some police tape around there, and you could see some broken glass, you could see some clothing on the ground. We're assuming that's the area where some of the people may have been shot, and that's where they were treated before they were taken. That is still a crime scene. Police are still there. Police are continue to gather there near the campus, and then they have that reunification center for the family members. That is at the Tucker Civic Center, and the police have been gathering at the auditorium there. But the lockdown has been lifted. Right now, we have another student, by the way, on the line. Isabella, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Hi, Isabella. Tell us your experience. Where were you today when you found out what was going on?
So I was actually at my house after classes, and I decided to skip my 11 a.m. class, so that's kind of an interesting thing that like my brain just decided to do today, of all days. But yeah, I was at home. I had a few friends on campus that were texting me. But yeah, I was safe when it started.
And wow, how profound that you skipped school, right? And on a day when something so horrific happened, how grateful are you that you weren't there?
Yeah, I'm grateful. I don't usually tend to skip classes, so it was just I was tired. I had a presentation this morning, and I just wanted to go home. And my class was kind of near the union too, so that was it was kind of a relief. Less relief because I did have friends that were in the union and in neighboring buildings, so it was more of a helpless feeling than anything else.
Well, I'm sure you can be forgiven for skipping class, but tell us about your conversations with your friends. What did they tell you?
Yeah, so I had a friend in the Bellamy building, which is kind of across the, like, a walkway from the union, but still really close, and they were in lockdown. They were evacuated kind of shockingly early. It was about 30 minutes after the shooting had started. They were moved into other classrooms. And they were just really freaked out. I ended up picking them up off campus before the all clear was given, like 15, 20 minutes ago, because they had students walking all over campus into various areas to evacuate them, I guess, but there was still rumors about another shooter, so I wanted to get them off campus as soon as possible.
And as they were getting into your car, what was the conversation you had?
It was just, you know, are you okay? Did you see anything? I'm the editor-in-chief of the school paper, too, so it was like, would you be willing to give a statement? And it's just kind of just like a frozen feeling. Like, we went to go get food after. We just kind of stared at the ground for a while.
So you're the editor of this school paper. We work in news as well, and one of the things we've been saying is that we report on this too often. This is too common. As a student who's also a journalist herself, what is your perspective on this?
I mean, it was exhausting. I had people texting me that I haven't talked to in 10 years, making sure I was okay, and then I had people from various news stations, the UF newspaper reached out to me about, you know, extra hands to find out information from AP, and it was just kind of like making sure my friends are okay, making sure I'm safe, making sure my girlfriend's safe, but also making sure that we cover this to, you know, because we are the school newspaper of the school that was involved in the shooting, and this needs to get on our website, but still making sure we're covering everything accurately when we have close to no information about what happened still, you know, 5 hours later, 4 hours later.
Isabella, you're getting real life experience in journalism, and I commend you for, you know, keeping your cool, but also acting as a journalist and finding out what was going on. So let me ask you, moving forward, how safe do you feel there in Tallahassee?
Well, luckily I'm graduating in a few weeks, so I'll be out of Tallahassee in a couple months. But I know, like, I have friends that aren't, and I have people here that are staying for a while, and I still have 3 weeks left, and I know I will most likely not step foot in the union, even though, you know, it's one of those things where it's like, obviously that's just where it happened, but it's just, I don't even know if the union will be open, but it doesn't feel safe. It doesn't feel comfortable by any means.
We've been mentioning that lawmakers gathering for session just a short distance away from your college campus. Many students have strong words for their lawmakers. What is your message that you would like to say to them?
I would just urge them to consider the fact that this is not because of mental illness, and this is not because of someone who is mentally unwell. This is because we don't have enough reform for gun violence, and something needs to be done. I've been involved in so many different gun violence organizations, and it's the same thing we see over and over again, the same steps that a shooter will take to get a weapon and then go to a campus. And it's so easy to get onto FSU's campus and really just open fire because it is a open campus. So to them, I just say, you know, we need to do better. And the statements that they've given about this shooting is just not enough.
And this is new video we're seeing for the first time of students moving through the hallway with their hands up. I know you weren't there today, but we appreciate you so much for sharing your insight with us and just the interesting position that you're in as someone who is the editor of the local newspaper and then experiencing this in real time.
Yeah, thank you so much for getting me on.
Thank you, Isabella. We are glad that you're safe. Thank you for taking some time to talk to us. And Naja, I'm looking at the video of those young people with their hands up. They're in college. They have police officers with heavy weapons there. They've heard gunshots. There was moments there where they didn't know what was happening. They didn't know maybe there was another shooter there. It's so frightening that they have to live with this. I'm wondering what impact this is going to have down the road. Is this something that later on they're going to have, post-traumatic issues with?
Well, sure.
I mean, most of us go to college and we don't live through something like this.
Right. It's certainly a possibility, and we've been commending the students on just how calm and centered they are. But we know that the adrenaline and the everything going on is so new right now that they really haven't had an opportunity to truly process and comprehend and understand what they were just exposed to. And my heart just melted when we heard the statement from the Parkland parent who talked about Parkland students going through this and then potentially some of them being students at FSU right now and then going through this again. When I was growing up, when you were growing up, this was not a thing. And the first time it happened, it was riveting, it was unheard of, and now it's commonplace. Students learn active shooter drills as a part of their education, that this could be a very realistic thing that could happen to them. We have more reaction from students right now. Let's take a listen.
And you're a student?
Yes, at Florida State.
What year?
Senior.
Senior?
Yeah.
And so, just talk about what happened.
Yeah, I was in class and it was about 1 o'clock and the shots rang out and we were like, is that construction going on or what was happening? And so we got up, looked out the window, and I remember looking outside and hearing 5 more shots go off. And I was like, what's going on? So I saw kids running away from the student union, and I walked away from the window. Then I walked back to the window and heard 6, 7 more shots ring out. And at that point we were like, okay, there's a shooting going on. So we ran from our classroom, went to the offices, locked the doors, barricaded ourselves in there, and then we waited and was looking out the window again and saw the SWAT teams pull up, the police cars, the FBI come, and at that point we were like, okay, we got to bunk ourselves in. And we were praying. We were like, okay, something's got to change here. And the SWAT team came into the room. They're like, stay where you are, don't move. And we were in there for about 30 minutes. And at that point we were escorted out. About 100 SWATs were inside the building, and our hands were up. And so then we were escorted outside past the union and then into a safe space.
What was going through your mind when all this was unfolding?
Yeah, I was completely in shock. I didn't think this could happen at Florida State. I mean, we're a pretty safe campus, but yeah, this was just like unheard of to me. I never had been in a school shooting before, active shooter. This is like first time for me, and I was honestly in shock. My hands were shaking. Just adrenaline kicked in, and I really didn't know what to do. I started tearing up. Just like I was scared, to be honest. Yeah.
Yeah, and so you just saw, you just heard the shots. You didn't see anything.
Yeah, I didn't see the shooter, but I saw the kids running away. I heard some screaming. Yeah, and the shots, like 3 rounds of like 5 shots, and then 7 shots. So it must have been some back and forth going on. Yeah.
Yeah. And how are you doing now?
Good. I've recovered a lot. A lot of people have been texting me. People from out of state, University of Michigan friends have been texting me. People from South Florida have been texting me. People from high school have been texting me. Doing a lot better. It's been a great community that has surrounded me since then. I definitely didn't think I'd be traumatized as much as I have. Definitely not being on the scene, but being kind of away from it. But yeah, it's been scary. So I'm doing a lot better now. Yeah.
That's good. That's good. Is there anything that you wish would have happened differently?
Yeah, no, I think the police responded very quickly. I think they did a great job. Yeah, I don't really know what could have happened. Maybe there's more police presence at certain areas for there not to be a shooter. I mean, I think that's just like the most obvious thing, but yeah.
And just the reality that he heard construction noise, and you have to think now, is it construction or is it gunfire? And then, you know, this video that we're seeing from this different vantage point of people who are actually behind the scenes and in the classroom and being told to hunker down in place.
Yeah, we're being told that news conference, Naja, in Tallahassee is now set for 4:30 this afternoon, but we're staying with this coverage. We want to bring you the latest and most accurate information that we can get to you, and that is that there were 6 people hurt in the shooting. 5 of them reportedly in serious condition, 1 in critical condition, and again, the gunman is in custody. The lockdown at Florida State University has been lifted. According to police, there was only 1 shooter. It happened in the student union area where there was a gathering of a lot of students. I was on the phone with my daughter, who's a Florida State University graduate, and she was telling me, oh yeah, Dad, the people are hiding in the bowling alley. I said, there's a bowling alley at Florida State? She said, yeah, there's a bowling alley near the student union. So people were hunkered down in the bowling alley, in gyms, in freight elevators, and many of them just ran. They don't know where they were running, but they wanted to just run as far from campus as they could. Others just hunkered down in a safe place under a desk. Again, we mentioned inside a room. Some people say 2 hours. We talked to a young man, it was 2 hours inside a gym, just waiting it out, being as calm as possible. Called his parents. Some people were having trouble getting through because the phone connections were not always going through at some point, but some of them were taken to that family reunification center in buses. We saw that, but we are happy to report that the lockdown has been lifted at Florida State University. The gunman is in custody, and we're waiting to hear from officials. We were told first 4 o'clock. Now we're hearing it's going to be closer to 4:30, but that'll be officials at Florida State University, university officials, and also police officers. And Naja, there's that area that we were talking about where we saw the broken glass, where we saw some clothing in that grassy area right there, and there is still police tape in that area. That's right in front of the student union. That's my understanding there in Tallahassee. But students were in different parts of the campus when they either got the alert or they heard gunfire, or as you've been mentioning, some of them were confused because there's construction going on, and there was another police drill that was happening as well, so people didn't quite know at the beginning what was happening. But then we got the information after noon that there was the shooting, one man opening fire near the student union at Florida State University.
Right, and the very latest information we expect to come out of the press conference now scheduled for 4:30 because there's still a lot of unknowns. We don't have much information about the shooter or a possible motive. We know the shooter is in custody and was shot by police. And we also heard reports from students who are saying that a college-age student emerged from the student union area and began firing shots. Our CBS News Miami's Christian Benavides is also at the scene, and we can go to a report from him now.
Multiple agencies, including Florida State Police, rushed to the campus of Florida State University in Tallahassee after reports of an active shooter.
Just surreal. I just couldn't believe what I was seeing.
This video captured students running across the street as the chaos unfolded at the student union around noon.
People started rushing to the back and everyone just started running out of the student union. About a minute later, we heard about 8 to 10 gunshots.
An active shooter alert was sent out and instructed people to stay away from all doors and windows, as many students sheltered in place in classrooms.
We got the desks and started piling them up against the door. We tried to get the bigger desk, the main desk, the presenter's podium against the door.
This father rode a service elevator with 50 others trying to reach safety.
The doors open and, 2 officers were there, guns drawn, yelled, "Did you see anything?" We're like, "No."
CBS News Miami reports a suspect is in custody after being shot in an exchange of gunfire with police. Several victims are hospitalized with injuries, including one in critical condition.
I just hope everyone's okay, praying for the people that are injured.
President Trump reacted to the news from the Oval Office.
It's a shame. It's a horrible thing. Horrible that things like this take place.
All classes and events are canceled at FSU for the remainder of the day. Christian Benavides, CBS News.
And we expect the very latest from a press conference that's going to happen in about 30 minutes. But we have been on air for more than 4 hours now with continuous coverage of this breaking news situation at Florida State University. At least 6 people hospitalized. 1 person is in custody after a shooter opened fire at FSU campus. The shooter was reported in the area of the student union, and students we've spoke with today say that it was a very crowded area with a lot of students gathering, studying, and congregating. And we know just before 2 p.m., authorities took that suspected shooter into custody. The Tallahassee Police Department, again, is expected to hold a press conference with the very latest information at 4:30, and we're going to stream that for you and have it for you live on air as well. But officials with Tallahassee Memorial confirming for us that 6 people are hospitalized. We know 5 of those victims in serious condition, 1 person in critical condition. But even after that, we know for hours authorities urged the students at Florida State campus to seek shelter and shelter in place until further instruction from police. They were told that they would receive an email with a safe word, and when they received that safe word, that's how they would know that it was safe to move about campus. And around 3 p.m., 3:15 p.m. to be exact, officials did announce that campus had been secured. We saw a message on X from Tallahassee Police saying that Florida State campus has been secured. Multiple law enforcement agencies remain on site for the ongoing investigation. The student union and surrounding area were still considered an active crime scene, so individuals are urged not to return to that active crime scene for any reason. But the most important information right now is that the threat has been neutralized. That happened around 3:20 this afternoon, and at 4:30 we expect to have a live newser with the very latest information. We also know that there's a student reunification location at Donald Tucker Civic Center, and that is where students are being brought to for a place of safe reunification.
Yeah, that is the live video that you're seeing right now, those students going into those buses and being taken to the reunification center. Some of those students were not able to go to their cars, and some of them had belongings that they left behind, so they're being taken to that area. If they have any loved ones that maybe want to see them at this point, if they have family members in Tallahassee or close by, that's the place. That's the place where they're being taken in those buses. Many of the streets there in Tallahassee are closed off, so those buses are probably the best way to get around. And we mentioned earlier that the lockdown has been lifted since it was shortly after 3 o'clock that they lifted the lockdown, and they said that the situation is under control because the gunman had been arrested and was injured with the police, and that the campus has been secured. But we should also mention that some of the sporting events at Florida State, some of the home sporting events, namely baseball, men's baseball, and also women's softball games in Tallahassee have been canceled or postponed right now. No word on the games, off campus, rather out of Tallahassee, but we know that Florida A&M University, which is only minutes away, has also shut down classes for the day as a precaution. Of course, nothing happened at Florida A&M University, but it is pretty close to, very close to FSU, so as a precaution, they just canceled activities for the day as well. And again, we're waiting for that news conference. We're told 4:30 this afternoon from Tallahassee. We expect to hear from the university officials and the police officials in Tallahassee to bring us up to date on the information that they have that they can share with us. And I'm sure parents, students, just everybody wants to know, get to the bottom of it, what is happening. And also would like to hear from our elected officials who are there in Tallahassee for the regular session of the Florida legislature. What do they have to say about this?
And we've heard a lot of the students make a direct plea to lawmakers saying that this is a common occurrence and it's not acceptable, that it shouldn't be, that no longer is it acceptable just to send thoughts and prayers. Thoughts and prayers are always appreciated, and in this day and age, so needed, but it's not enough. They want to see action, and we're seeing those students who were at the reunification location being bussed out now on those FSU buses. This has just been a traumatic moment for these students, but through it all they've just seemed so centered and so collected, and it's unfortunate that this has become such a common occurrence in this day and age that they've come to expect it. One student saying, I didn't know if I was hearing construction or gunfire, but the fact that those two are even consciously interchangeable is just a testament to the day and age that we live in. I think we have another interview we can take a listen to now.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, I just got my lunch from the union, and I was getting ready to work on some of my meteorology homework. Right now I'm a junior at FSU studying meteorology, and I was getting ready to do some of my work when suddenly from about the east entrance of the FSU Student Union, I saw a horde of students running in a frenzy where I realized what was going on. I think I might have heard someone say it was an active shooter event, so I quickly grabbed what I could and just got out of there. Now, unfortunately, when I was trying to flee from the Student Union, I actually ended up tripping on some of the stairs that lead up to the Union, and I sprained my ankle, have a couple scratches on my leg as well as on my left thumb, but otherwise physically I'm all right. Just taking the time right now to just recover and kind of process everything. But after I left that student union, I hid behind some bushes. And when I did, I was able to contact my mom. But at the same time, I started hearing gunshots ring off in a very rapid succession. I believe I didn't actually see the shooter, but from what I heard, it sounded more like an automatic weapon. And it was just absolutely horrific. And it's something I'm not gonna forget for a very long time.
And that coincides with what we've heard so many other students say, that they heard those rapid gunshots, about 15 to 20, and then a pause, and then another set of 15 to 20 students saying he heard what he believes is a total of about 30 gunshots just in rapid motion.
Yeah, so we don't have specific information yet on what type of weapon was used, and I'm wondering about that motorcycle right there. Could that have been part of this? Is that a police motorcycle? It's hard to tell right now. It does look like a police.
But still, it speaks to that there are just still so many unknowns. When we first went on air with the reports of an active shooter, it was right after our noon newscast, so we've been on air for hours now, and the information was literally unfolding in real time as we were bringing it to people at home and doing our best to make sure that the information was the most accurate and informative to keep everybody who has loved ones at FSU campus informed or just has a personal connection, because as we've been saying, so many people do. So many people have graduated from FSU, have children who attend school there, and then this video, just riveting to see that behind the scenes account. Earlier, the shots we were getting were from further away, but this vantage point is a real student or faculty, someone's account of experiencing it in real time. And just to see the students walking through their hallways with their hands up as SWAT and officials escorted them to safety, and then hearing the accounts of students barricading themselves. I believe we have another phone interview right now.
Yeah, we have Jim DeFede is on the phone, and I know Jim just recently was in Tallahassee to cover the passage of the bill that your documentary led to. Jim, what information are you hearing about the shooting in Tallahassee?
Yeah, I've been working on this for the entire afternoon, and it's pretty clear that we're still getting information, bits and pieces. Look, we were able to report earlier that the gunman was shot by police outside the student union and taken into custody and transported to the hospital. We're still, as Nasha has said, there's a lot of different information and accounts as to how many people are injured, how many people are shot, how many people are seriously wounded. We'll get all of that my guess is within the next half hour. Those numbers are varying, but really the question that I have more than anything right now is, who is this individual? That's the question we've been trying to answer. Is it a student? Is it somebody who works at the university, or is it someone from outside the university who came onto the campus? As you heard earlier from some of your interviews, this is a very open campus, and anyone can walk onto that campus without any problem. That's the nature of a university like FSU. You want it to be open and inviting, but this is the downside when things like this happen.
And according to students, they described the suspected gun person as a college-age student, appearing college-aged. We don't have that information at this time. But I do have to ask you, because the students we've been talking to, many of them making a direct plea to lawmakers. We know session is they're just a few miles away from session right now. Lawmakers gathering and students making that direct plea. Do you think that this will be the aha moment for lawmakers, or that this will finally ignite or spark change that I know as a journalist you have been working towards?
I would not expect that. I will tell you that there were two gun-related bills in the legislature this year. There was a bill to allow guns on college campuses. You're not supposed to bring a gun on a college campus. And there was a bill that worked its way through the legislature that would allow students and faculty to carry guns on college campuses like FSU. That bill failed a month ago and is not moving forward any longer. There is another bill which would repeal some of the reforms that came about after the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas shooting. If you remember, Florida, in the wake of that shooting, passed a number of laws, including one that changed the age in which an individual could buy a long gun from the age of 18 to 21. That bill, there's been the governor and others in the legislature have been pushing to repeal that, to take that back to 18. That bill appears dead. It made movements in the House, but the Senate appears unwilling to move forward with that bill. It's not clear if that bill would have done anything with regard to this case, because clearly, I think from some of the initial reports, some of my reporting, it appears more to be a handgun involved in this incident than necessarily a long rifle type situation or an assault weapon type situation. So what we know now is that those bills in Tallahassee related to guns are not moving forward as it is. But I expect nothing new in the terms of to go to your question, Naja, as to whether or not we would have new legislation to try to limit the ability to have guns in public places. I don't see that happening, not with the current climate in Florida.
So what you're saying, Jim, is that we're actually going the other way. Instead of cracking down on the gun laws, making them stricter, Governor DeSantis is actually making them looser. And the thinking by some is that if more people are armed on the college campus, you have students or possibly faculty members packing heat there on the college campus, that's going to make the university safer?
Well, that was the theory that went forward when State Senator Randy Fine, now Congressman Randy Fine, introduced a bill to allow handguns, people to be armed on college campuses. As I said, that bill failed. That bill did not pass. Legislators rebuffed that effort by Randy Fine to do that. And the bill to sort of walk back and repeal some of the changes after Marjorie Stoneman Douglas to weaken crime laws now, in other words, to take a step backwards, those bills also appear to be dead. So we're just sort of at a standstill on it. I don't see any new legislation passing, and I don't see any legislation weakening the existing laws. We're sort of staying in place.
We heard earlier, Jim, a statement from a Parkland father who talked about, just how horrific it was to go through this during the Parkland shooting. And now we're learning potentially that there are some FSU students who are experiencing something so tremendously horrible yet again. The families that you've talked to, what do you say to appease them? Is there anything that can be said? Or how do we move from talk, as the students have said, to actual action? Because it sounds like from your experience, nothing is going to move forward at this point in terms of establishing new laws or bills.
Sadly, this is an issue of elections. Elections have consequences, and for most voters, the issue of guns has not been the driving factor in deciding who they vote for. And so as a result, that has not really propelled a lot of change in terms of the Florida legislature. You also have to realize that the people who often advocate the strongest for those gun laws, particularly after Parkland, were young people. Unfortunately, young people do not turn out in the same voting numbers as older Americans. And so as a result, their voting clout is considered weaker, and therefore they are not listened to as much. But do not underestimate the power of the gun lobby in Florida and across the country, and particularly, though, in Florida. It's very strong here, and so those sorts of bills are very difficult. It took the tragedy of Parkland to get that bill moving, and ever since then, there have been efforts to try to weaken the reforms that came out of Parkland.
Jim, hang on there for a minute. Stay on the phone with us just a moment. We're going to go take a live picture from Tallahassee where we can see the podium where this news conference is going to take place. We're hoping in about 15 minutes. Do you think there will be some voices, though, in the legislature who may talk about potentially making our gun laws stronger? Oh, we lost Jim DeFede. Okay, we have the podium there, live from Tallahassee, waiting for this news conference to start. And now Jim DeFede pointing out that there is no political appetite in Tallahassee right now to strengthen our gun laws. He's saying that there's a lot of support among young people. We remember after Parkland, the March for Our Lives, those young students from Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School who are now college students or possibly, college graduates at this point, many of them. Jim is there. Jim, I'm just wondering if anybody in the legislature during the session might take up this opportunity to at least call for some changes in the gun laws, even though, as you're saying, there's no appetite in Tallahassee to actually do it.
So technically, the period for filing bills or doing anything has already passed. So the legislature is in its final couple weeks, and they're focused mainly on budget issues. But to your question of will we hear voices in the legislature calling for some sort of change, I would expect that. But I would expect it on both sides. I would expect to hear Democrats talking about the need for further gun reform legislation, and I would expect that there will be some who will say that we should have passed, that the legislature should have passed the law proposed by Randy Fine to allow handguns on campus as a way of fighting back against issues like this. I think it's the same debate we've been hearing after every one of these gun violence situations, and I think we're going to hear it again. I think we'll see each side go to their respective corners and sort of fight it out to their constituencies.
Sure, we can expect, I think, a lot of finger pointing, but I think something that you point out, which is really pivotal, Jim, is that we heard from so many young people today who said that sorry prayers are not enough. We need definitive action. But it's the young people who, as you mentioned, who are the real agents for change but aren't getting out there to vote. So hopefully, if there's any tug at your heart for, the people of this generation who we say this is just a sign of their times, that the takeaway is that their vote is so pivotal, it is so important, and if they are truly passionate about seeing the change that we heard them advocate and say that they want to see, that the power is in their vote and they need to get out there and exercise their right.
No, you're absolutely right, and it feels like it's a very long time ago that we were covering the March for Our Lives movement. I remember Lauren Pastrana going to Washington to cover those protests, and tens of thousands of people turning up in the Capitol and throughout the country for those protests. That seems like a very long time ago.
It sure does.
And I don't really anticipate that we're going to see any real change right now, either out of Congress or Tallahassee.
Jim, we've heard in the past Governor DeSantis say that he supports open carry in Florida. Is that something that you think that he may still be focusing on?
Oh, it's one of the things that he really does want. He has been proposing it and pushing for it every year. I don't think he's going to stop as a result of this. I think he'll argue that open carry and those things are to a benefit because it will try to deter people. Remember, one of the things that we did just the last session was to change the concealed weapons laws. You used to have to get a permit in Florida to carry a concealed weapon, and in getting a permit, you had to go through a training class, you have to be registered, all of those sorts of things. The legislature did away with that. So anyone is allowed to have open carry or rather concealed carry right now, and the governor wants to take it to the next level, which is open carry.
Yeah, the thinking is if somebody on that campus had a weapon, that person would have intervened, and maybe the loss of life or the injuries would not have been as grave. But then there's the argument on the other side, and many of the young people that we talk to, what they would like to see is stricter gun laws. So, but what Jim is telling us, this may end up going the other way in Florida because that's where the political appetite is right now.
Well, Elliot, let me just real quickly just jump in. It's not just young people who oppose open carry and the change to conceal weapons. Law enforcement opposes it. Law enforcement doesn't like it. They think it puts them in greater jeopardy if you've got these sort of situations. They would want to know if they pull someone over if that person has a concealed weapons permit and is possibly carrying a gun. Right now, we're endangering law enforcement, not just the public.
Interesting. Well, Jim, thank you so much for your insight. And we also want to mention that we do have a number of crews headed to the scene and who are going to have live reports for us throughout the evening and late evening newscasts. We have CBS News Miami's Ted Scouten, who's headed there. CBS News Miami's Anna McAllister is also on the scene gathering new information. And in about 10 minutes, we expect to hear from Tallahassee law enforcement for the very latest on this still developing situation because there are still so many unknowns. unknowns, but we have been on air for live continuous coverage for nearly 5 hours now because of the close connection to FSU campus and so many people who live in our community. So just a recap of how we got to this point. We know that at least 6 people have been hospitalized. 1 person is in custody after a shooter opened fire on Florida State campus. The first alert went out at 12:01 this afternoon about an active shooter situation, and this was reported in the area of the student union via the emergency alert. And we know that the student union was an area where a lot of students gather. It was to study, to congregate, so it was a densely populated area. We also know that around 2 p.m. authorities took that suspect into custody. That suspect was shot, had some sort of shootout situation with police, and that 6 people right now are being treated. Tallahassee police should have that press conference in about 7 minutes that we're going to bring to you live, where we have the opportunity to learn any new information. But Tallahassee Memorial Hospital has confirmed that the 6 victims hospitalized, 5 are in serious condition, we know, 1 in critical condition. But it was just very difficult for so many students who for hours were urged to seek shelter and wait for further notice from FSU police while officials gave the all clear. And then at 3:15 we did receive confirmation that the campus was secured. Tallahassee police a short time later, about 3:17, sending out a tweet saying that although campus has been secured, that multiple law enforcement agencies are still there, that this is a very active crime scene. And so if you or someone you know is a FSU student, you should not return to that area for any reason. And also since then, we knew that Tallahassee police established a student reunification point at the Donald Tucker Civic Center, and there we saw students being loading onto buses, and it was just a place where people could connect with loved ones or anyone who was impacted by the active shooter situation. And I think the most riveting video, some of it as we take a live look right now as students still gathering, was just seeing the students escorted along with the staff through the hallway with their hands up as they exited the classrooms and packed and loaded onto the buses. It was just really difficult to see and then hear the accounts of the students as they heard those gunshots. And we have my producer just saying we do have some more reaction from students, so let's take a listen.
It was just chaos. Everyone was like, there's like a shooter and stuff. And so like these guys started like pressing the elevator button to have elevators come up and like put tables in the blockway to like block anyone from getting on the elevator. And then like some other guys like closed the doors to the 5th floor and then put tables and stuff there. We actually were by the windows. So like at the windows we saw cops running, students running. It was just like complete chaos. Everyone was like running all over the place. And then we saw like a gurney, and then like the gurney came back and the guy had his arm cut off, and I think like he was bleeding and like he had like bandages and stuff. And so like that was really hard to see.
People started rushing to the back and everyone just started running out of the student union. So I made my way back out where the old bookstore is. About a minute later, we heard about 8 to 10 gunshots.
And then you mentioned that you saw someone that appeared to have been shot next to you? Or
yeah, so there was another gentleman that was running away, and looks like he was shot in the pelvic area, and he laid down and he got help and assistance from the police.
And then you just made your way across the street? How long was it until you thought?
I was there for probably about 45 minutes until they started clearing all around the around the student union, and then I had to walk around.
What was going through your head through the whole entire thing?
Just surreal. I just couldn't believe what I was seeing. Just being in here at college campus, everything was really quiet, then all chaotic.
Hearing that word a lot, Naja, surreal. That's what people have been saying about this experience. We're waiting on this news conference to start in just a few minutes. The reporters are already in the room. The microphones have been set up. So we expect to hear from police officials and university officials there in Tallahassee to give us the official information about what is happening. We mentioned earlier there was a lot of misinformation going around. There were reports of 2 gunmen. It was a lot of uncertainty, and we've been trying to get you the most accurate information possible. And with a breaking story like this one, you have to stay with it. You have to check different sources and talked to people, and that's where we are right now. We know that there are 6 people in the hospital, 5 of them in serious condition, 1 of them in critical condition. We know that there was a shooter who has been described as somebody who kind of could pass for a student, or maybe was a student, we don't know. But somebody in that, a young person, in other words. We heard that the person had facial hair. That was a report that we had early on, but then I haven't heard that one again. We haven't heard too many stories of an eyewitness who actually saw that person. There is some video there going around on the internet, but we have not been able to confirm the accuracy of that video, so that's not something that we're going to show you. But we do know that the campus is no longer under lockdown. We know the situation is under control, except for that police scene that they have there in that grassy area near the student union, where those students were injured. That person walked onto the campus and opened fire, started shooting there, and 6 people were hit by the gunfire. There have been different reports about the rapidity, how rapid those shots were fired, and whether it was an automatic, a semi-automatic weapon or not. We don't know. We don't know if it was a long gun. We don't know if it was a handgun, potentially a handgun, but we hope to find that out during this news conference. There may have been more than 1 weapon. We don't know. At this point, we're waiting to hear the official update. So stay with us. It's just a few more minutes before the officials come out, and they'll give you the latest, most accurate information from Florida State University. And, as we started talking this afternoon, Naja, I mentioned to you that my daughter went to Florida State University. So many people here in South Florida have family members there in Tallahassee. And I remember when my daughter was there, my biggest worry was when she drove back and forth from Tallahassee. At that point, we weren't thinking about active shooters on college campuses, but this is the reality that we live in this world. We talked to Jim DeFede, who said there's no appetite among lawmakers in Tallahassee to strengthen the gun laws. In fact, what the governor wants to do is to allow more people to carry guns, saying that will make people safe. So that's the debate that will be had in the state of Florida. Will allowing students and others on campus make it safer for people there? Some would argue that it would be the opposite. You have more people with weapons on a college campus, students and guns. That may not always be such a great combination, but that's the debate that we may see happening here in the state of Florida. But right now, we're just waiting on this news conference to start. We want to get the information, the most accurate information that we can, to bring it to you at home.
Yeah, and something we've heard a number of students say that you mentioned is surreal, and I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that it probably really hasn't sunk in yet. We see an officer walk to the podium now, so as soon as he begins talking, we'll take a live listen. But we've just heard from a number of students who describe the situation as surreal, still certainly processing what happened. And let's go now to this presser.
Well, they're getting ready. They're waiting for more people to come in.
But I think we've all been taken by just how poised that these students have been through this incident and how just composed they have been. But let's take a live listen now. We appear to lost that shot momentarily, but
let's listen.
Let's take a listen in.
Chief of Police at Florida State University. All Florida State University classes and business operations on the main campus in Tallahassee are canceled through Friday, April 18th. Essential employees should check with their supervisors for further reporting instructions. All FSU athletic events in Tallahassee are canceled through Sunday. At approximately 11:50 a.m., Thursday, April 17th, a gunman opened fire on the main campus of Florida State University in Tallahassee, shooting multiple individuals in the vicinity of the Student Union building. FSU police responded immediately, engaged, neutralized, and apprehended the shooter. 2 victims are deceased, and 5 individuals have been transported to a local hospital with gunshot wounds. The shooter has also been transported to a local hospital. The 2 deceased are not students. The shooter is believed to be a current FSU student. I do not have additional information on the shooter's identity at this time. Students who need assistance can go to the Donald L. Tucker Center, where the university is providing counseling, health care, and other support services. Family members are also able to go to the Tucker Center for assistance. Students, faculty, and staff are asked to call their loved ones as soon as possible to update them on their status. The student union and the surrounding area is still considered an active crime scene. Individuals should avoid the area. Students should not return to the student union to retrieve personal property at this time. Students may return to their residence halls, but they should otherwise stay indoors on main campus to allow first responders and university staff to do their jobs and respond to those needing assistance. Students may depart campus for the weekend. All classes have been canceled through Friday. Before I turn this over to Chief Revel, I want to thank all the brave men and women of the FSU PD for responding immediately to the scene. I also want to thank the responding agencies who have provided assistance to FSU today big time, including the Tallahassee Police Department, the Leon County Sheriff's Office, the Florida Highway Patrol, Leon County Emergency Medical Services, FDLE, and all other responding agencies today. We really appreciate your support. That's all the information I have at this time. We'll have additional update for you later today. Chief Revel.
Good afternoon. I am Chief Revel with the Tallahassee Police Department. As the shooting occurred today, our officers, as well as every single other officer in this city and county, responded immediately to this scene. Once on scene and once we began working through what was occurring and what we were working in consultation with FSU, Tallahassee Police Department was asked to take lead on this. So we will be the lead for this investigation, and both the officer involved shooting portion of this as well as the homicide portion of this. I will come up after the last speaker and entertain just a few questions, but needless to say, we have multiple crime scenes. This is a very large area we're covering. We have thousands, hundreds or thousands of witnesses. And again, this is an active, ongoing investigation. So the information that we will be allowed to release right now may be fairly limited. I'll answer what I can at that time. But I will assure you that as soon as we can, any information that becomes available, we will make that available to you. One of the things in the process, and again, understand that this is an ongoing active investigation. So things are happening as we are standing here and as we are speaking. We have identified the shooter, obviously. He's at the hospital. So with more on that, I'm going to allow the sheriff to come up and speak on that portion of it.
Thank you, Chief. As Chief Revel indicated, I'm Walt McNeil, Leon County Sheriff. First and foremost, let me express our gratitude to the responding law enforcement agencies in this community. Our citizens should feel some degree of comfort knowing that your law enforcement agencies are going to respond and do exactly what we did in this case, that is bring the offender to justice and to make sure that we do what we can to make sure we lock him or her up. Let me say to you, this is obviously a heinous crime. Our deepest condolences go out to the FSU family, the families of the students who are here, and we understand that you all have been devastated because of this person's actions. The question as it relates to who is the shooter is 20-year-old Phoenix Eichner, and he's the son of a Leon County Sheriff deputy. Our deputy Eichner, has been with the Leon County Sheriff's Office for over 18 years. She has a tremendous job that she's done. Her service to this community has been exceptional. Unfortunately, her son had access to one of her weapons, and that was one of the weapons that was found at the scene. And we are continuing that investigation into how that weapon was used and what other weapons perhaps he may have had access to. The alleged shooter was also a long-standing member of the Leon County Sheriff's Office Citizen Advisory or Youth Advisory Council. So he has been steeped in the Leon County Sheriff's Office family, engaged in a number of training programs that we have. So it's not a surprise to us that he had access to weapons. This event is tragic in more ways than you people in the audience could ever fathom from a law enforcement perspective. But I will tell you this, we will make sure that we do everything we can to prosecute and make sure that we send a message to folks that this will never be tolerated here in Leon County, and I dare say across this state and across this nation. Thank you. Let me bring up the FBI Assistant Special Agent in charge, Hubert Reynolds.
Good afternoon. My name is Hubert Reynolds, and I'm the Acting Special Agent in charge of the Jacksonville Field Office. I want to echo those standing with me what a horrific crime this is, and we stand with you fully. We have an office here in Tallahassee, and we are fully engaged with providing any resources that we can bring to bear to help with this investigation moving forward. We've established a digital tips media line where you can upload photos, videos prior to and during the incident. If you were there from social media, please upload all of that. I will give you now the website address. You can upload any tips to www.fbi.gov/FSU shooting. Again, that's www.fbi.gov/FSU shooting. I want to assure you that we are going to bring every available resource to be able to help the community and the local people here. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Richard McCullough, Rick McCullough, the president of Florida State University. This is a tragic day for Florida State University. We're absolutely heartbroken by the violence that occurred on our campus earlier today. 2 have died. 5 other innocents are being treated for their injuries. We're working to support the victims, their families, and everyone affected by this traumatic event. I just returned from the hospital where the First Lady and I met some of our students who are the victims. Our hearts go out to our students and the victims of this terrible tragedy. I have to say that our law enforcement, our FSU police officers, are absolute heroes in this regard. The call went out, someone called it in, and immediately they responded to the scene and immediately neutralized the suspect and prevented this from being a bigger tragedy. I want to thank them so much for what they do to try to keep our students safe. I want to thank all the law enforcement partners, FSU Police, Tallahassee Police, Leon County Sheriff's Department, Florida Highway Patrol, and the Florida Department Law Enforcement, and all other responding agencies for their rapid and courageous response. I want to thank everybody that came out to visit with the students and to help us and to be here today for this press conference. And I appreciate so much the support that you're all providing to our university and to our students. We're fully cooperating with the investigation, and we defer to law enforcement as they continue their work. I'd also like to thank all the healthcare providers at Tallahassee Memorial Hospital that are treating and providing outstanding care to our victims. Right now, our top priority is safety and well-being for all the people and our campus. As it was said, classes are canceled on the main campus today and tomorrow, and all FSU athletics events on Tallahassee are canceled through Sunday. We also want to tell you that counseling and psychological services are available to students, faculty, and staff, and anyone that needs that should call 850-644-2003. We're also providing support for faculty and staff through our Employee Assistance Program. And so if you need any help, please reach out. We'll continue to communicate with the campus community as we know more. This is a deeply emotional time, but we're all here to support each other. We're going to do everything we can to support our community. We're a strong and united community, and we're family. And so we'll take care of all of you. And we'll get through this together. Thank you.
All right, at this time we will take a few questions. Let me just reiterate, this was a massive response, a massive response of law enforcement personnel. Our federal, state, local partners have continued to build relationships that long preceded this event. And that came into great play today in the seamless way that we all came together to work these events. But I know you'll have some specific questions. I will tell you right now, we are not going to talk about the victims other than the fact that there are 6 of them, two additional deceased, and then the suspect. So 9 total persons. 9 total persons. Yes, sir.
Have you all been able to talk to the suspect at all? Any idea about motive?
The suspect invoked his rights not to speak to us.
Chief, do we know if the weapon that was used was his parents' service weapon? And if so, what are the rules around storing service weapons?
Right. No, that's a good question. This weapon was a weapon that the deputy previously used. A lot of times, many agencies, mine included, when we transition to a new handgun, the officers are allowed to purchase the handgun they used prior. And correct me if I'm wrong, Sheriff, but I believe that's the case here. This was a handgun that deputy used prior to them transitioning to a new handgun, and so it was her personal handgun.
Put on leave or?
The sheriff would have to speak to that.
We will do a thorough investigation to look at all aspects of it. There's no cause right now that we're aware of that require her to be placed on any kind of suspension or otherwise.
Yes, ma'am.
We've been hearing stuff that it was a deputy who was a school resource officer. Is that true?
That is correct.
Yes. Chief, those injured, those killed, or any of those members of law enforcement?
I'm sorry?
Anyone who died in the shooting or was injured in the shooting, were any of them members of law enforcement, whether it be the...
No, they were not. They were not. Yes, sir.
When law enforcement arrived, did the suspects engage with them, or did he surrender immediately?
No, they challenged him and ended up shooting. He did not comply with commands and was shot.
Did he fire officers?
I do not believe he fired at officers.
We've heard that Phoenix may be autistic. Are you able to confirm that detail?
I do not have that detail.
Is there an idea of the victims yet?
I'm sorry?
An idea of the victims?
We're not releasing any of the victim information at this time.
Was the officer aware of any behavioral conditions or concerns or threats prior to this incident?
We were not.
How quickly did officers arrive on scene from the 911 call to when they engaged the suspect?
We will get you that information. I don't have that currently. I assume that would be a question that was asked, but I mean, it was almost immediately. That FSU, obviously this is their campus, and they patrol it very well. So they were on scene almost immediately, engaged almost immediately. And then everyone else, again, was a massive, very quick response.
I know you said that the 2 deceased were not students. Do we know of those 5 that were injured or any of them students?
Again, we're not releasing any information on the students on the victims at this point.
Specifically, what firearm did he use?
I'm sorry?
What kind of firearm was he using?
It was a handgun.
What kind of handgun?
I don't know what type of handgun that was. It was probably a 40. I don't know. Yeah.
Chief, I heard it reported that a shotgun was also recovered on campus. Was that used in the shooting?
We do know that he had a shotgun with him. We have not confirmed anyone was shot with a shotgun at this point. But again, that could change as we, again, there are hundreds and hundreds of witnesses, and as we piece all of this back together, information will come to light that we may not have at this point. So I do not believe so at this point.
We'll take one more question. Will body cam footage of radio dispatch or any logs be released in the near future?
I'm sorry, say again.
Will there be any body cam footage or radio dispatch logs or incident reports being released anytime soon?
We will work with the state attorney's office, which we always do, in pulling together all the information, all the investigative evidence from this case, and in collaboration with State Attorney Campbell, we will make that determination. Obviously, after the case is over, we will certainly, it all becomes available at that point. But as to what we can and will release at that point, like I said before, we're very open, transparent on these things. Again, the officers did an incredible job. But again, some of this is very horrific. This is a horrific incident. And so we will, again, collaborate with the state attorney's office and determine which of that evidence could be released or will not be released. But again, I will let you know that as soon as we make that determination. So thank you all very much. Appreciate you being here. And just let me reiterate what's already been said. The collaboration between all of the agencies, the federal, the state, the local, all of our first responders, our EMS personnel, our fire department, again, just a massive response, immediate treatment to the victims that were there, the transport of them, again, it was a very seamless response to this tragedy. And that goes to the training that we all do repeatedly, individually as agencies and together. The incident command came together very, very quickly. And again, I could not be more proud of the response and more horrified at the act. So thank you very much.
Can you please just real quick verify again one more time the number of people injured and dead? Our number was 8. I heard you say 9.
Sure. Total number of 9. That includes the suspect. So there are 6 victims that are injured, 2 victims that are dead, and 1 suspect. And that's let me just reiterate this because I'm not sure we said this. We have no reason to believe at this point that he did not act alone. So there is no further threat to our community at this point. So thank you very much.
A very tragic update to the active shooter situation at FSU campus. 2 people have been confirmed dead, and a sheriff's deputy's son is in custody after an active shooter was reported at Florida State University's campus in Tallahassee. The suspect involved is a 20-year-old son of a current sheriff's deputy who had access to one of her weapons, and that is according to Leon County Sheriff Walt McNeil. We know that a number of people are still receiving treatment at Tallahassee Memorial Hospital, but 2 people have been confirmed dead. We also know that the shooter was a member of the Leon County Sheriff's Youth Advisory Council, but the breaking news just in from that live press conference, 2 people are now dead, and a sheriff's deputy's son is in custody as the active shooter.
Yeah, a deeply emotional time is what one speaker said right now in Tallahassee, and they're really congratulating the police officers for their response. It was almost immediate, is what the police chief said, but it just wasn't quick enough. And we're learning, Naja, that the gunman had more than one weapon. He had a handgun and a shotgun. We do not know if the shotgun was used, but as the police officers and the police chief and sheriff were explaining, this is a young man who had access to weapons because his mother is a Leon County Sheriff's deputy, and they actually mentioned that the firearm that was used was once a the registered handgun of the sheriff of the deputy of his mother, and that sometimes the deputies will get a new gun, they're able to purchase the old one, and that's what the sheriff and the police chief there in Tallahassee said that the gunman, whose name is Phoenix Eichner, 20 years old, was able to use that gun, which had been his mother's service weapon and was now his weapon. He also had a shotgun. Just a horrific day at Florida State University.
And
again,
now 2 people confirmed dead. And you could really hear the emotion in their voice, because this is something that hit very personally for them, because this is potentially someone that these law enforcement officials knew, because this suspect was also a member of the Leon County Sheriff's Office Youth Advisory Council. His mother, a deputy, so he had, very close relationships potentially with these law enforcement officials. Officials also noting that the suspect, who is identified as Phoenix Eichner, is not speaking. He is exercising his right not to speak with officials right now, so they don't have any additional statement or information from him. But the newest information that we learned, this took such a tragic and unfortunate turn. 2 people now confirmed dead, and a sheriff's deputy's son is in custody right now.
So he was able to shoot 8 people, 2 of them killing 2 of them. The police officials confirming that those 2 victims who died are not students at Florida State University, but they would not go beyond that. The 6 that are injured, they would not describe whether or not those are students, whether faculty, whether they were employees at Florida State University. We do not know about the 6 injured. We do know that the 2 who were killed were not students at FSU. No further information on that. And also the reports are there were 15 to 20 gunshots that were heard on campus as this gunman walked towards the student union, pulled out the weapon, and opened fire, striking 8 people. 2 of them died. 6 of them are right now hospitalized. And the FBI is investigating. They released a website that if anybody has video, the FBI would like to see it. You can send it to their website, www.fbi.gov/FSU shooting. And we know time and time again, many of these videos do have important evidence that the police will need as part of their investigation.
And they noted that during this that there are multiple crime scenes and hundreds, potentially thousands of witnesses. So they're asking with anyone with information to please come forward with that. Again, that website is fbi.gov/FSU. And if you have any video information that might help in their investigation with the hundreds, potentially thousands of witnesses, they're just encouraging you to do that. But they also mentioned that the shooter, Phoenix Eichner, is a FSU student. They told students that the situation, of course, has been neutralized, that there's not any other suspect in this case, but that there are multiple crime scenes, so that they're asking students to stay away from the scene. And they said that classes will be canceled through Friday, so there are no classes through Friday, and then any sporting events will be canceled through Sunday, so no sporting events through Sunday. But the campus has been neutralized. There is no active threat right now, but students, described the shooter as just a normal college kid, and now we're learning that this student, this suspect, who is not speaking to authorities right now, has a connection. That is, he is the son of a deputy and had access to weapons. A total of 9 people hurt in this incident. We know 2, unfortunately, the tragic turn, have been killed in this incident, and the suspect, Phoenix Eichner, is the son of a deputy, also a member of the Leon County Sheriff's Office Youth Advisory Council.
Yeah, the sheriff saying that he was engaged in a number of training programs that the agency has offered. So he's a young man who was familiar with weapons, and he had a handgun and also a shotgun when he walked on campus there at Florida State University this afternoon, right around noon, towards the student union, and opened fire. And this is the video that we saw earlier of the students with their hands up being marched out of class as that active shooter alert was on this afternoon. It finally was lifted around 3, just past 3 o'clock this afternoon. The lockdown was removed. That is one of the areas that police are investigating with the broken glass. There are some clothing out, the articles of clothing out there. We're assuming that that's one of the spots where he just opened fire on whoever may have been around there, right next to the student union there at Florida State University. There is counseling, healthcare, and support services services that are being offered at Florida State University for the students who lived through this. Naja, you and I have been talking about maybe they haven't processed what they lived through today, and it may hit them later on. And so there are services, mental health counseling services and support services that Florida State University is offering for them right now. There also is a phone number that I can give you right now. It's 850-644-6203. 850-644-6203. That is for students or anybody affiliated with Florida State University who needs help, is seeking help, whether it is for counseling, mental health services, or just want somebody to talk to. That is the number to call, 850-644-6203. Again, a very emotional time. Surreal is how everybody described it. When you first hear this, you think, no, this can't be true. This has to be a false alarm. And as the information comes in, trickling in, it just, the students there are stunned. But again, it's been so impressive listening to them talk and seeing how composed so many of them were when they heard the gunshots, when they found out that there was an active shooter on campus. So many of them stayed in place and did exactly what they were supposed to do. But many others who were outside, they just ran away from the campus.
And investigators, of course, now identifying that gunman as 20-year-old Phoenix Eichner. He was an FSU student, the son of a Leon County Sheriff's deputy. Officials said he used one of her service weapons, and they say that he was involved in many of the programs on campus. It is unclear how he got his mother's weapon, but he would have had access to it, they say. But 2 people killed, 5 others still hurt after that gunman opened fire at Florida State University. Officials now saying that although the all clear was given in terms of safety for the campus, that it is still an active crime scene, and asking anyone with information to please come forward. And with that, we'll begin our 5 p.m. newscast.
And right off the top at 5, breaking news to report: 2 people killed and 5 others hurt after a gunman opens fire at Florida State University. Chaos on campus today as students and staff were sent running for safety. Law enforcement giving an update just a short time ago.
The 2 deceased are not students. The shooter is believed to be a current FSU student.
The shooter is 20-year-old Phoenix Eichner, and he's the son of a Leon County Sheriff deputy. Our Deputy Eichner.
Good evening. I'm Naja Sherman.
And I'm Elliot Rodriguez. What should have been just a normal Thursday in Tallahassee quickly turned into a tragedy.
So here's what we know so far. The call came in just after noon. We know there were 7 victims. Investigators revealing 2 killed were not students at FSU. The gunman was shot by police and is in the hospital. He is believed to be a student at the university, and investigators think he got the weapon from his mother, who is a Leon County Sheriff's deputy. Campus will remain closed, and campus classes will be canceled for the rest of the weekend.
Now we have live team coverage for you tonight. Nikaya Carrero and Tanya Francois are standing by with more from students and their parents. But we kick off our coverage with CBS News Miami's Maribel Rodriguez. She is live with the latest developments. Maribel?
Multiple agencies, including Florida State Police, rushed to the campus of Florida State University in Tallahassee after reports of an active shooter.
Just surreal. I just couldn't believe what I was seeing.
This video captured students running across the street as the chaos unfolded at the student union around noon.
People started rushing to the back and everyone just started running out of the student union. About a minute later, we heard about 8 to 10 gunshots.
An active shooter alert was sent out and instructed people to stay away from all doors and windows as many students sheltered in place in classrooms.
We got the desks and started piling them up against the door. We tried to get the bigger desk, the main desk, the presenter's podium against the door.
This father rode a service elevator with 50 others to try to reach safety.
The doors open and, 2 officers were there, guns drawn, yelled, "Did you see anything?" We're like, "No."
CBS News Miami reports a suspect is in custody after being shot in an exchange of gunfire with police. Several victims are hospitalized with injuries, including one in critical condition.
I just hope everyone's okay, praying for the people that are injured.
President Trump reacted to the news from the Oval Office.
Shame. It's a horrible thing, horrible that things like this take place.
All classes and events are canceled at FSU for the remainder of the day.
And again, just a short minutes ago, we did get confirmation from Tallahassee that 2 people have died and they are not students. 5 others are being treated. The gunman is an FSU student. All classes and events have been canceled through Friday at FSU. They are providing counseling for students and staff on campus. And we do know there are many South Florida students who attend Florida State University. They are asking the students to contact their loved ones and vice versa to let them know that they are okay. Meanwhile, President Donald Trump spoke at the White House this afternoon, saying he had been fully briefed on what happened today.
It's a shame. It's a horrible thing, horrible that things like this take place, and we'll have more to say about it later.
Governor Ron DeSantis posted on X, "Our prayers are with our FSU family and state law enforcement is actively responding," end quote.
Many South Florida parents with students in Tallahassee understandably are shaken, especially when they heard that news.
CBS News Miami's Tanya Francois is picking up our team coverage with more from a father who found out about the shooting from a notification and desperately waited for a call from his son.
There's so many scenarios that went through my head, but as soon as I heard him on the phone, I knew we were going to be okay.
John's son Dominic was on the Florida State campus in the gym when the shooting happened. His first thoughts was to call home.
So this is like just a special connection me and my dad always had. You know, if something ever went down, like he's the person I call. Only because, well, first of all, because he always has his phone on him.
This Zoom call allowed them to actually see each other. Dominique still not allowed to return to his dorm. He's outside waiting for the all clear.
They gathered us all at the Civic Center kind of just to get us all in one place, I guess. They actually don't want us going to our dorms right now, so we're actually we're permitted from going to the dorms because they're in the center of campus, and they won't let us go back to our dorms.
John says he thought about going to Tallahassee, but he says the school alerted parents to also stay put. He's very grateful his son is safe and is very concerned now for the others.
Pray for the people that got injured and killed, if there are any. I know there's different reports going out there, so I just sad for everybody else, happy that Dominic's okay, and